I need to apologise to a lot of people tonight who are expecting a Burns themed vPub. But of course, it makes sense on the 25th of January. But I've done Burns themed topics on the vPub in the past. One of the very, very early vPubs that went out, 2018, 2019, maybe very early. It would have been obviously January 2018. I think I did a Burns topic. If that's kind of the thing you're after, it'd be interesting to see what you think about some vintage aquavitae too. Regardless, we're not doing that tonight. This was already scheduled for this time of year as we look forward to 2024 and everything that the whisky year has in store for us. We had this revisit to the topic of the Glass Loch. Then, in December, a certain German YouTube channel called Whisky Tales dropped a video that made it compelling for me to reach out and talk to him about it, to see if he wanted to get involved in the topic tonight. And that's what's happening. You guys have been involved as well. There's a poll tonight. It's still active just now, so if you're in here watching on the live chat, you'll see the link to go in. You can still participate in that poll right now, and it'll run live throughout tonight, and we'll just keep it running live until such a point that I pull all the information. And you can still participate right up until this moment, and I'll share all the results with you tonight. Tonight we're talking about the Glass Loch, and I'll explain what that is in a moment. I'll see you in a second. Hello, whisky folk. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Thursday night. Welcome to the vPub. As always, I hope you're all doing very, very well. Yes, apologies for the lack of a Burns theme tonight, but you guys can make up for it in the. You can raise your glasses and have Burns toasts and do whatever you need to do to celebrate the Bard's Day. We're going to have a bit of a Rabbie Burns weekend. The kids are up for it, and my son was campaigning me for haggis for dinner tonight, but we're going to be eating haggis at the weekend. There's some events over the weekend, some friends, and of course, there's the Whisky Club on Tuesday night has their Burns night as well. So by the time Tuesday night comes round, I think I'll be all haggis out. So I decided not to do anything for Burns night for the vPub this year. I hope that's okay, and I hope that you're all going to be having a bit of fun for those of you who mark the occasion. Fantastic. No, this week I spoke to Andre back at the start of December, middle of December last year, and we penciled in this date. It was the Glass Loch topic. We talked about bringing it forward, but it was always in for this date, and it just fits. So we'll keep it at that, and hopefully Rabbie won't be too offended that we're going to be talking about how much whiskey we're all sitting on when otherwise we should maybe be celebrating his day. Anyway, just at the head of the show, I want to talk about the Glass Loch and that phrase and what I mean specifically when I use the phrase Glass Loch. And obviously it harks back to the famous Whisky Loch of the 1980s. That was a time when brown spirits generally, but certainly whiskey and Scotch whiskey, fell out of fashion in the late 70s and into the early 80s, and there was a huge downturn in demand. And it meant that there was a lot of whiskey just left in cask out and maturing in warehouses up and down Scotland for a very different purpose, I have to say, than it is today for the most part. Back then it was mostly blends that was popular, and that was what kind of fell out of fashion. It's a wee bit different today, where so much more interest is in premium whiskies, malt whiskies, and slightly more special, let's say, whiskies rather than bulk blends. But regardless, the whiskey that was left maturing in the warehouses propped up a lot of its development and its future. There was a lot of whiskey left there just maturing. And what happens when whiskey matures in a cool climate and a Scottish damp warehouse? It tends to get better and better with a wee bit of patience and time. And it helped build Scotch whiskey's reputation through the late 80s, the 90s, into the early 2000s. It became known as the Whisky Loch. All that whiskey that was left that nobody wanted was the Whisky Loch. But in a modern context, I think it's shifted a little bit. Certainly there's more whiskey than there's ever been maturing in warehouses all over Scotland, but that's there to support a genuine demand. What we also have that's also a new thing is that today we are promiscuous and we want to try lots of whiskey. We chase it for flavour, we chase it for engagement, we chase it for pure sharing and enjoyment. Back in the 70s, they were probably rinsing their bottle of whatever brand was their favourite brand and then replacing it with the same brand again. It's quite different now. So what we have today is a Glass Loch. I think that the whiskey hobby, the whiskey pursuit, however you want to describe your passion for this gorgeous liquid, tends to encourage an inevitable cookie trail of bottles, an over-accumulation. Certainly it does. It certainly does for me. That, I think, today is going to be at a level that's never been known or understood before. And that would have been true when I first started talking about the Glass Loch back in 2018, 2019. Then we had the pandemic and everything went into overdrive. Everything got crazy. We were kind of stuck at home, and one of the few outlets that we had was our ability to continue to buy this liquid that we enjoy. The Glass Loch has been, I don't know, could we put a label on it? Has it doubled? I think it potentially has. That's what we want to talk about tonight. We want to just kind of talk about the inevitable fallout from this whiskey pursuit that we have as individuals, and kind of have a bit of a confessional. When I've talked about this topic in the past, talking about collections and things, we've had this, how many bottles do you have? How many bottles do you have that are open? How many bottles have you bought that you're potentially going to squirrel away and sell somewhere down the line? How many bottles have you bought specifically for the purpose of selling? And all of this, it's all anonymous, completely anonymous. And that's what that poll was about. Now, the poll only went out yesterday, so we've got a fairly small sample, but it's live now. It was about 650 people had responded by the time I went live tonight, and it's clicking away in the background. I can tell you just now we're at 684. So it's clicking away, and you can still participate in that. It's only 9 questions. It's only going to take you 1 or 2 minutes. So if you've not done it yet, why don't you click on that link in the live chat? Can I show you something? Somebody asked me about the live chat. Said, Roy, I'm watching you on YouTube and I can't interact on the chat that you're talking about. And it's YouTube. Typically YouTube have messed around and they've been changing things, right? So I'm going to try, I'll put this on mute and I'll pull up this live stream right now so you can see me, and the live chat is underneath. So if you turn it landscape, you're obviously going to get it off to the side. But if you don't have that coming up, go into your comments and swipe to the side. YouTube's changed its layout a little bit, and you should be able to find it there, the live chat underneath. Hopefully for you, it comes up automatically like it does for me, but I've noticed not always. Chat to each other in the chat. I'll come in and welcome you there. If you haven't responded to that poll, click on the link and go in. Spend 1 or 2 minutes giving us your answers and add to the discussion. Thank you all so much. Yes, I'll jump in to the lounge now and welcome some of you beautiful whiskey folk and dedicated barflies. It's good to be with you here. I don't have a Burns-themed whiskey in the glass either. I'm actually sipping, I was in the mood to pour a Signatory Vintage Dram tonight, actually, in honour of our guest. So I've got a wee Dillion Richard in the glass. It's not a 12-year-old, I think it's a vintage 2012, so 11 years old. 10 years old, actually. It's bottled in early January 2023. That's what's in the glass tonight. So I'd like to welcome you all and happy Burns night. Cheers to you all. Let's pull this chat up and see how you're all doing. I'll scroll back a wee bit, see who I can find. As always, I'm looking for the orange. So if you're trying to get my attention throughout tonight, as I'm speaking to my guest especially, type Aquavite or at Aquavite. The highlight's nice and orange for me. Hopefully I'll get a chance to pick up a few comments as the night goes on. My pal, Jason Whiskey-Wise, is here. Fantastic, Jason. How are you keeping, my friend? Wonderful to see you in. Still an admin for me, still a moderator, buddy. But hark back to the old days, eh? You don't have to do any work tonight. I know it's a rare day off for you if you're in here in the vPub, Jason. Put your feet up and rest a while. I hope the job's going well, buddy. Whisky Novice Jim, Northern Ireland, another YouTuber. Fantastic, Whisky Novice Jim. It sounds a bit funny, Roy. Sound seems a bit funny. Oh, dear. Is it me or is it you, Jim? Let's see if there's anybody else mentions it. Another YouTube channel, Whiskey Mysteries, in here tonight. Filling deeper, fantastic. Good to have your company. Fernando's here. Ryan Sutherland, good to see you, Ryan. Evening all, and hello to you, sir. Good evening, Ryan. Fernando is saying, hey, everyone happy to join once again. 100% guilty of the Glass Loch. At least I reuse many of them and don't have to dispose of them. Oh, okay. So you're reusing your bottles, your empties. And Graham Fraser is saying, evening, Ryan Barflies. I'm dramming in Edinburgh tonight, so we'll be popping in and out of the vPub. Hope everyone is good. Tell you what we'll do. We'll keep the quiz at the end for your train ride home, Graham. How does that sound, buddy? Fantastic to see you. Good to have you in. Gene Kelly's here too. Jimmy Legg is in. He's celebrating being a member at Barflies for 47 months. Jimmy, thank you for all your support. Hey, Roy, 47 months. We're almost 4 years old. Next month, the Barflies will be 4 years old. Listen, the vPub's a wee bit older than that, but the Barflies are here. If you click that YouTube membership, you help support the channel a wee bit, definitely. It's fantastic. But what you do is you replace the money that's normally given to me by YouTube through AdSense, through ad revenue. I don't put any ads on this content. The Barflies have taken care of that. At $1.99, whatever your currency is, dollars, euros, or pounds per month, you get your little Barfly loyalty badge. But you also get whiskey-themed emoji and things like that to help you clear up the chat. The big thing is, though, you keep it ad-free. Uncluttered viewing. The only cluttering of the viewing is me. The Hogshead's Alex is saying, evening, folks. Good to see you in, Alex. Fantastic. Thank you for responding. I know specifically that you are part of the 600-odd people that responded to our poll. Thank you, Alex. Des is saying, good evening, Roy. And Graham Young is here. Good to see you, Graham, over in Canada. Martin Logan as well in France. I think you're in France, Martin. Of course you're in France. I know you're in France. First time catching the vPub in a long time. Excited and slightly afraid about the topic today. Don't be afraid. Awareness is the first step. And I think that this is not just, it's not just kind of holding a mirror up to the community. I think it's holding a looking glass up to the industry too. I don't know, the industry is, I know that it bases a lot of its projections based on consumption and past sales and history and things like that. But I don't know if people realize that purchasing has been going up in recent years, but consumption is plateauing or reducing. And that would be true in this little environment that you see me sitting in tonight. And I know from reading the comments that you guys have sent in as part of this poll, it's true for you too. Marcel King's Drams is here saying, evening, Barflies. Finally watched the vPub live after a few on replay. Marcel, it's wonderful to welcome you live, my friend. Hope you enjoy yourself tonight. Highland Hamish up in the Highlands is saying greetings from Inverness. Toasting Burns night with a Douglas Lane timorous beastie. I think that's a perfect choice, Hamish, for a wee Burns night dram. Jesse Artanzalo is here. Good evening, Jesse. I hope you're keeping well, my friend. Artificial Frequenties with a T. That's my pal Daniel from Hungary. Burn Baby Burn Disco Inferno sings. I don't know what you're referring to. I hope it's not my sound tonight. Thursday night is always Aquavite night. I never miss these. I never met this Burns guy. I doubt he'd hold a candle. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you so much. Julian Rickman is saying, evening, Roy. Evening, Barflies. Looking forward to feeling my own whiskey loch isn't that big. There's going to be a lot of that tonight, right? Kind of reassuring ourselves that we're not strange, that we're not odd, that we're not kicking the backside out of it. You know. Comparing ourselves to the extremes is probably not a good idea, I would say. Is look at the condition and the shape of the community. I'll share it all with you tonight. Whiskey Novice is celebrating being a member of Barflies for 46 months. Danny Hebbington is celebrating being a member for 24 months. 2 years, how times flies, he's saying. And Jim is saying, cheers, fella. Happy New Year to you and all. That first time I've had you in, Jim. Happy New Year to you, fella. Good to see you. I'm looking forward to hanging with you in 2024. David BV has bought me a dram already. No comment or anything. He's put a wee 3 sticker on it to say maybe celebrating being a Barfly for 3 years. And he's, sorry, David, just jumped. Bring it back. There you go. Aye, nothing, but cheers for the dram, Dave. Cheers to you. No Nonsense Whiskey celebrating being a member for 41 months. Whiskey Wings, that's Mike, isn't it? Whiskey Wings is Mike. Whiskey Tip is Duncan, your sidekick on the Honest to a Malt podcast. I'm halfway through your current one where you're talking about, what are you talking about? Superhero, whiskey superhero powers. And one of you suggested that it would be good to have a superhero power where you could know the outcome of an auction before you placed a bid. I was having a laugh in the car. I'll listen to the rest of it tomorrow, guys. Great stuff. Daniel Williams is saying, evening all. He's on his phone, so he'll be lurking tonight. Good to have you in, Daniel, regardless. And Rico Denert is here. Rico, my friend, good to see you. He's celebrating being a member for 37 months. Happy to join in tonight and say hello to Andre. Fantastic, Rico in Germany. Listen, so many of you have been Barfly supporters here for months and months and months. I really do appreciate it. We all do. Thank you. Justin Wan is saying, good evening, Roy. Happy Burns night. Good evening to you, Justin, as well. Roman is here saying good evening, and all you beautiful barflies. And Jimmy Jazz from the States is saying good evening, Aquavitae and barflies. Fantastic. Thomas F, good evening. Thank you for the survey. It made me accept the need to tackle my personal Glass Loch. Well, I did ask a couple of things that would have taken some action. I say it would have taken you 1 or 2 minutes to fill out, but you had to know how many bottles you had, more or less. You know, but I guess you could. The banding was wide enough for you to make a good guess. Klaus is here saying, Falscraft is saying, I'm certainly one who still seeks to expand the glass shores of my personal loch. I think it's okay. Glenn Duncan is saying, Aquavitae from Burns night last night to Australia Day this morning. I can feel a dram or two on the way. Cheers to you and barflies, one and all. So Glenn Duncan, it's the morning for him on the 26th, Australia Day. Let's raise a wee glass to Glenn Duncan and all our folk down in Australia. Happy Australia Day, everyone. Good stuff. Let's go on. A wee dramming from Jimmy Jazz saying, it's now time to pay up for attending Legfest. Dance lessons starting tomorrow night. Oh my goodness. So I guess in order for you to get to come to Legfest last year, Jimmy, wonderful to have you there, you now have to do something and indulge something that you're a passion of your wife's, your other halves. And that's to do a wee bit of dancing tomorrow night. I bet you love it, big guy. I hope you do. I hope you do. Let us know how it goes. And Philip Story is saying that you time your dram, hoarding and whiskey gang together, of course. Take off your dram. Cheers, Philip. Cheers to you. Okay, let's see. Pull that up and that. Good. And then I can keep an eye on you tonight and do my best to monitor things. Here's how it's going to work tonight. I wanted to revisit the Glass Loch, and I've wanted to do it for a long time. The last time that we did it for the Glass Loch's sake, it was probably pre-pandemic. And throughout the pandemic, we did kind of similar themed things where we talked about the Glass Loch, but we talked it in the context of our whiskey collection, how we manage and maintain our whiskey collections. Are we okay about so many bottles being open? What will happen to the liquid in the open bottle? How do we store it? How do we look after it? How are we going to treat our whiskey purchasing going forward and things? But that was in the context of the time. I wanted to revisit Glass Loch post-pandemic and just see how we're going. I'm actually glad that I left it so late and didn't cover it in 2023, because what has been interesting from my own personal perspective over the course of 2023 is that purchasing and the fervour for whiskey seemed to plateau and drop and drift off a little bit. And I think that was in direct response to just a sea of never-ending, limited, new, special, inaugural, just so many one-off things that'll never appear again. There's only so much of that you can take before you become saturated. And that's fine if the whiskey community is growing and growing and growing and doubles every few years, like it was doubling in the early 2000s, and it was doubling into the maybe even 10 or 15 years ago. It was still growing at a very fast rate. 10 years ago, still growing very fast. These days, the swell has started to tail off a little bit. We're starting to plateau in this growth of the community. So we're all starting to get a wee bit jaded, I think, about the sheer amount, the sheer variety, the intimidation almost, the dizzying choice that we have. Then we run into winter. The run up to Christmas is usually whiskey time, isn't it? It's usually whiskey fervour. It's when we all settle down with our drams, when we all look to see what drams we can get into, get us through winter, and that we can enjoy during the darker evenings. Sorry for Glenn Duncan and everyone in the Southern Hemisphere. It's flipped for you guys. But from our perspective, that tends to be what happens. It's a busy, busy time. And what we started to see was certain dynamics happening, not so much on the community side, which is interesting, but I think as a result of what was happening on the community side, things were backed up and choked up a little bit on the industry side. We were all talking about it. These these special offers were happening. These sales, pre-Christmas sales, were a strange thing. And then just a week or so into December, a German YouTube channel called Whisky Tales dropped this quite impassioned video talking about, has the whiskey bubble finally burst? I had to watch it. I don't speak much German. I had to speak any German. So I had to watch it with, I'm grateful to have YouTube's and Google's auto-translate subtitles. And it was clumsy and clunky and things, but I could pick up the gist of what he was saying. I knew how to get in touch with Andre. I knew Andre, and I reached out to the host of the channel and I said, let's have a chat. So we had a chat. Do we want to cover it in December, or do we think it will keep until the new year? And we decided that it would be better to speak about it in the new year because I had a topic teed up this week for it, but also we'd have the benefit of seeing what's happened over the Christmas holidays. Reached out to Andre recently. You still up for this? He said, of course I'm still up for it. So he's here to join us tonight. And how it's going to work is I'm going to take, so I had 5 basic concepts that I wanted to get from our community, because it's all very well Andre and myself just sitting here and speaking. But I think in order to colour our discussion, to back up our discussion maybe, I wanted to put a poll together. So yesterday morning, I sat down and I put together a poll. I released it yesterday. Andre took the link and he released it amongst the German-speaking community as well. So thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who participated that normally wouldn't have. It's because it's reached people outside of my community this time around, in order to get a nice sample size together. But let me show you something else. I put a free text field in at the end of that poll. So it takes you mere minutes to go through and click the radio buttons and things and answer the questions. What you don't have to do, what's fully optional, is to leave comments. I've got an excess of 30 pages of comments now. This is not just throwaway typical comments. This is gold. This is the feeling and the sentiment of an entire community, albeit our community, albeit the enthusiast community, the invested community. But I'm not going to just leave this once I've read it and just I'm going to go through this and edit it. I'll take out all the names and things. I'll make it anonymous. I'll replace names for initials, do all of that stuff. And then I'll make it into a PDF. It might not be done quickly, but if you're watching this a day or two after this has gone out, have a look underneath the video and maybe that PDF is available. And if it's something you might be interested in, this is the voice of the community, and I'll share the voice of the community with everyone, especially the people who took the time to write the comment in there. I think it's the least I can do. It's fascinating to see. It's also fascinating to see all the results to all the questions that I put out to you. I asked the 5 things I wanted to ask over 9 questions was a bottle count, how many bottles we have, how many bottles we have that are open, and how many bottles are sealed, that kind of thing. I also wanted to know what our intent was. What's our intention with these bottles? Are we drinker or thinker type people? Are we investors? Are we collectors? Why are we buying these bottles? So I asked questions about that. I asked about buying habits, about present, about past, and about future. And I also asked about how much you were comfortable willing to pay. And I also asked about what your feeling was about the general temperature of things just now. So all those results I'm going to share with you tonight. But right now, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to welcome in my friend who's been waiting long enough, I think. And I'll welcome in. Now, he runs a German-speaking channel, Whisky Tales. Hopefully there are some people in here that can enjoy and sign up to his channel tonight. But he is now a resident living in Scotland. Andre he's a passionate whiskey enthusiast first and foremost, but he's worked in the industry, worked for Kirsch Imports on the continent in Germany, and now he's living in Scotland, and he lives up in Perthshire, working for Signatory Vintage. He's still keeping his YouTube channel growing healthy though. Let's welcome in Andre. How are you doing, friend?
Doing good. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Welcome to the vPub. Welcome behind the bar, Andre. It's good to finally welcome you. Cheers. I know.
Thanks for having me.
I know you've popped up on this channel before, but only in the context of the Online Scotch Whisky Awards, because as an independent bottler, you seem to do a very good job of keeping us all excited about the releases, to the point that 3 years in a row, you've won an Online Scotch Whisky Award for it, you and the team up there. And of course, it means that you're sitting out in 2024.
Yes.
You're sitting out this year, but you'll still be coming on and joining us this year, Andrew. I hope to accept your trifecta award. We don't let an achievement like that go unmarked. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, we'll be there, definitely.
Fantastic. But that's the signatory vintage thing done tonight. I don't mind you talking about it. It's an incidental thing. It's part of your job. But tonight you're here as Andre from Whisky Tales, the YouTube channel, and I thank you very much for that. Thank you for your trust. Thank you for stepping forward. You put out a mic drop video on the 8th of December in 2023, to the point that the day it went out, 6 different people at least got in touch with me to say, Roy, you need to try and watch what this guy is saying. So much of it reflected and even amplified a lot of the chatter that was going on in the background. All these WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups and all of these places like Dramface and all of those kind of things where people are talking about things that they were feeling. And you put a sense of expression to those feelings, I think. I had to watch it with the English subtitles translated from your German. I think it worked more or less okay. When you and I were speaking together, the sentiment was absolutely reinforced. So what we'll do is we'll spend a minute talking about that video. I think it's your most watched video to date, right?
Yes, by far.
Instantly so. Yeah, yes. It was immediate. The traffic that video saw.
Yes.
The video was called. It's in German, of course, but the translation is roughly, "Has the whiskey bubble finally burst?" Right, more or less.
Yes.
Yeah. Where are you taking that perspective from, Andre?
So I'm taking it from the view out of the business and what I hear, what I see, and it is for the moment right now. Or for the end of 2023, for the current situation and for the situation in particular. At that point, the bubble was, in my opinion, already burst. You can always argue about the future. What about India and maybe Russia and other countries? There's a big recession and inflation around the world, and the pockets are not so deep anymore.
Sure.
So, and Asia was for Q4 in 2023, it was basically frozen, including the business, the Christmas business. There was close to nothing in whole Asia. And if you have a world map in your mind, if you take out Asia, then you can take out at the same time Russia. So there's a lot of the planet is already missing. And then the states were quiet. We all saw the news about Latin America. The numbers went down. Continental Europe was just, Germany was doing well, Netherlands were doing well, and France a bit. But all other countries also were, kind of frozen. And in the UK, we saw the numbers because of the duty rates on alcohol. Within 1 year, the alcohol, the spirit sales went down by 43%. So, and we could see it everywhere. And it's also not just for the producers who couldn't get rid of their stuff, who couldn't sell well. It was also for the consumers, as you already mentioned, the discounts everywhere. Take 3 bottles, get 1 free, 20% on everything. And we have seen the auction prices going down. There was a German article called like a massacre in the whiskey auctions. So I could see bottles going for like Imperials, rare stuff, selling for £100. So I saw also Edredors that were like 80, £90 on the markets went out of auction for £45 and whatever. There was just no interest. And We have seen all these discounts in the supermarkets, and from one point to another, there were a lot of Scotch whiskey, single malt whiskies in the supermarkets, also in Germany. We have seen this also in the UK. So there was just they started to do these flash offers, similar to the Amazon Lightning offers. It's really the other day I saw the Talisker Storm sold for 25 instead of 45. In Germany, we had the Talisker 10 together with special packaging and a coffee mug for 19 euros, which is equal to 17 pound.
For
Talisker
Talisker
10,
10,
not the Sky, not Storm or whatever, no age stuff. It was the 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And all of this came at the same point. And after that, going into the new year, we had, of course, our annual meetings with like suppliers, and it's the same from everyone. Every glass supplier, every supplier for tubes or whatever. We were talking to them, and they said, "Jesus Christ."
So I think an executive summary then is that we've got Andre as the whiskey enthusiast, somebody who's passionate about whiskey, who loves whiskey, knows the enthusiast community, was born from the enthusiast community. You're also the guy, I think, that founded one of the forums in Germany, right?
Yes, faststark.de.
I'm sorry?
Faststark.de. It's translated to caskstrength.de.
Okay. So and it's still going strong today. So you've come through this, then moving into working for the industry as an importer, moving to Scotland.
I've been an enthusiast first, and did a lot of bottle shares, did a lot of social media, online forums. There are a lot of bottle shares in Germany. That's the way how we can afford expensive bottles. So we just share it by 5cl, put it into small samples, and then send it by post. So without adding money or volume or whatever, just price divided by whatever, and then no extra costs. It's
perfect.
About making friends, not making money.
Perfect.
And then because of my enthusiasm, I started already a YouTube channel like 10 years ago, but I stopped that with like 1,000 reviews of whiskeys because I got into the industry, and I always wanted to be honest. And you cannot work in the industry and talk about your own bottles. Okay, this is just solid, And I stopped to do videos about the imports of Kirsch and just did the others. But we have been on the whiskey shows, and there are other importers next to you. And if you said something wrong or bad about their bottles, they're thinking, okay, I saw that guy. Now he's working for that company. So, and then I just said, okay, just stop it, and it was fine. So but that was the first. Those were the first steps, and then I just came because of the enthusiasm into the industry.
If people are offended by feedback, whether it's down at, sometimes they'll say it is negative, sometimes it is negative, maybe it's not, but it's valuable to them. It's valuable. You're not being negative for the sake of being negative. It's with the view to having a positive outcome. But I understand completely the dynamic you're speaking about. But now that you've moved to Scotland, you're living in Scotland now. You're coming to me from Perthshire right now, right? You're up in
absolutely. I'm on the distillery area.
Yeah. So you're working in the industry now. Your perspective then is valuable to me, Andre, because I get a perspective of a whiskey enthusiast who knows what it's like to be a whiskey botherer like me, running around and grabbing everything that's shiny and wonderful and full of promise. But you also see it from the side where it's a little bit more matter of fact, let's say, moving cases of whiskey, selling whiskey, maturing whiskey, looking after whiskey, releasing all of the things involved in the industry side, and then from that forward into the supply chain, distribution, exporter, importers, all the relationships through the retail, everything. So what you've seen in the recent months is what we all kind of feel is a huge slowdown at the same time that the industry was probably at its optimal supply level. Would that be right to say? The industry is supplying more. When I say the industry, it's quite clumsy, isn't it? But whiskey producers, whether it's independent bottlers, whether it's distillers, whether these are distillery bottlings, official bottlings, or whether these are independents, there is more available, more variety, more choice than there's ever been. Just at the point where the prices are at the highest they've ever been, cost of living is at the highest it's ever been, interest rates are punishing, tax, duty, all of these things are involved. And we come into the second half of 2023, and this starts to act like a blockage. Would that be fair? Would that be a fair executive summary? That's what prompted you to release the video, right?
Yes, absolutely. And far more other information. We heard about other companies bringing back containers full of their bottles back from Asia, back. And what does it tell me? It doesn't just tell me that it's not, that they're not doing good over there at the moment. It also tells me they don't see it changing quickly. So otherwise they would just let it sit there and wait. So there are many things I hear and see, and the shops over there, or some shops, they're underpricing. They don't add something, they don't take their margin and sell it. Then they sell it for the price they bought it, because they need some cash flow to pay their rent, pay their employees, and whatever. And now these, we call it gray imports. Usually, when you send some stuff to China, it should be sold in China to the consumers. But the gray imports is when they now send it to other countries. Could be South Africa, could be back to Europe, could be wherever. And everyone is trying to get rid of whatever stuff they have sitting, and whatever is not selling quickly. And it's, at the moment it's a mess. But there's the big discussion for India, the UK and India, for their free trade deal. They're sitting together at this moment for the 14th time to discuss if they should lower the import tariffs for India, which are at the moment at 150%. So there is a lot. I think I saw statistics that India is the biggest importer for Scotch whiskey this year for the first time.
Yes, they overtook France. That's right.
Yeah. So, and that's what's happening with that tariffs. And if they took off those tariffs, that's what the industry is waiting for. And that's why they're not selling off like crazy. So, and they hope they can change that. And then, India will buy a lot. So,
well,
but I hear different opinions about that. They're just drinking the cheaper stuff, and they're just getting the bulk whiskey, so like in containers or IBCs. But I think it will be more. And even if it's just the cheap stuff, even if it's just a Johnny Walker, more people can afford it. So they need more of the distilleries producing it.
Yeah, if the tariffs are removed, if tariffs are punitive tariffs are removed, then it makes sense that everything's going to become more expensive. I'm sure that India also is mindful of their domestic distilling industry, which has blossomed under those tariffs. But you're absolutely right. France was overtaken for the first time by India, and it's mostly supported by more inexpensive whiskies. You're right, blends and bulk stock and that type of thing, which serviced France very, very good for years. And that's happened now. It's the 14th time, as you say. I didn't know it was the 14th time. But that's interesting, right? Because we're not confident that there's suddenly going to be revelations, but it may happen. It may happen. I put it to you, Andre, though, that you and I, as enthusiasts, and everybody that's tuning into the vPub tonight, we're not really interested in that type of whiskey. And I know that that's not separate completely. There is overlap there. It is connected. They're all part of the same thing. But the whiskies that are really we're struggling with right now, the reasons that we're slowing down because of saturation, because of price, because of challenges that we're having in our daily life, it's They are connected, but I think it is different. So when we speak about a whiskey bubble, would it be good to give you an example? The poll that we put out together, that I shared with you, that you've seen the questions on, that is only going to speak to whiskey enthusiasts, whiskey botherers, whiskey troublers, people like us.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I think if we started to get distracted by looking at IBC containers of whiskey that's going off to be blended locally at the destination or whatever, I think it would detract. So if we try and focus on that tonight, because that is essentially the business that you are in. Specialist bottlings,
Absolutely.
single casks, small batches, Edredar distillery as well. It's famously was once upon a time Scotland's smallest distillery, right? But there's a whole ream of smaller distilleries now. But you know, that's the place that you're at. So if we, just for the sake of people that's picking this up, just keep that in mind, that the whiskies that Andrew's mentioned about going to India, you're speaking about just a few dollars per litre. Whereas the whiskies that we're going to focus on tonight is the stuff that makes us sit down, where a single glass can last us a whole evening because it's so wonderful just as a flavour experience. It's a different thing rather than bulk alcohol. What we'll do, Andre, I think, is try and put a number on it, try and put a scale on it, to try and talk about how crazy the whiskey community and the whiskey buying public has been in recent years, especially over the course of the pandemic. Did you see a huge increase in demand during the pandemic years?
Yes, definitely. So the curve went like upwards for, I would say, 20 years, steep upwards, and then for the COVID, and that's the whiskey where we are talking about, the single malt for the enthusiast, then it went like this. So
Okay.
because the people were sitting at home, they couldn't go to the bar, there were lockdowns, and the people, they bought like crazy. And I saw the numbers from the German distributor, I saw the numbers from Signatory, and that's the single malt stuff for enthusiasts we are talking about, and where the poll was about. At the same time, some people now look at statistics about Scotch whiskey during that time, and the numbers weren't that good. That is because they didn't sell the Johnny Walker in the bars, they didn't sell the Chivas and that stuff. So you always have to make clear, and you have to be clear what perspective you have at what point in time. And also you see some statistics, you really must really careful, you must be really careful what's shown there. Is it liters? Is it bottles? Is it liters of alcohol? Is it money? Is it just return? Is it, you must be very, very accurate.
Context is everything,
Yeah.
always, right?
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
have to understand. And I think that the questions that we put out in our poll to our community today were intended to be a little bit loose, quite wide bandings and things like that. But the context was already taken care of, because that link is only going to be shared, and the only people that are going to participate in that are interested in a very specific side of whiskey, and it is the single malt whiskey. It's the more specialist stuff. It's the more premium stuff. Very interested to share some of the details with you tonight about what they're willing to pay for it. Surprised me. Andre, I'll be honest with you, for as long as I've done this type of content, I've spoken to the camera and spoken to folk and said, I'm going to slow down. I'm going to slow down. And yet I don't seem to. I have to give myself a break. I have to let myself off the hook a little bit because of what I do, similar to what you do. We're here in YouTube speaking about whiskey, so we have another motivation on top of what's normal to buy extra whiskey. Especially if you're going to review this whiskey, you probably need to know what it tastes like against this whiskey to give this one a fair idea. So you have to have a good idea of the landscape generally. This is my excuse. I hope it sounds good to you, right? I hope it's all right. But of course, it's an excuse. Let me give you an anecdote. In the back of my notebook, I decided this week for this vPub, I would do a bottle count. But I was confident my bottle count would have dropped from the last time I did a bottle count because of how many empties I've thrown away over the last or put aside over the last 12 months or so. I just felt confident that versus my buying, it would be down. So I opened the last page of my notebook just to do a little map of my shelves to help me count. What did I find there? A map of my shelves that I did for this topic, a similar topic in 2023. So here's the map of today, and here's the map of last year. What do you think happened to the number from 2023 to 2024?
I would guess it stayed the same, roughly.
It went up
Up.
by a ridiculous amount, an unbelievable amount of bottles. The bottles, so bear in mind, I'm disposing of bottles, I'm getting rid of bottles, but the bottle count went up by 70 bottles since last year. It's incredible. So if we're going to confess, if I'm going to ask the community to come in and answer a poll, then I need to step up and say, I am part of this problem that we're discussing, even if I have my excuses for YouTube. Let's do a wee share here, Andre, so that I can show you this, where we're up to. My goodness, we've jumped up quite a lot. This poll is still live. So when I kicked off tonight, I think it was 650, but it was 762 responses now. So it's nice to see that, and I will try to do the best I can for everyone that's taken the time to respond to this poll. I will put any comments that you reach, I'll publish it, so keep it clean. As soon as we start to see it getting spammed or abused, I'll cut it down, I'll close it. But I want to share this because I think it's good feedback and information for everyone in the industry. Let's have a wee look at this, Andre, and do a wee screen share here. The first thing we want to look at here is, so this is the back end of the poll. We're currently at 762 responses, and this may change. It might tick away live as we speak. But the first thing I wanted to talk about when we covered this topic tonight was, of course, scale. So if we talk about the bottle count, first of all, the first question I asked everyone was, how many bottles of whiskey do you have at home in your personal collection/selection? Because not everyone sees themselves as collectors. Some people just have it as a selection of whiskey for them to enjoy and share. Great. So I split it into bands of, some people have less than 20, then 20 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to 200, 200 to 400, and then how many people are willing to admit that they have more than 400 bottles of whiskey. Can I just say at the outset, and I hope you agree with me, some people will say that, say, how can you have 400 bottles of whiskey? Well, I fall into this category here. 400 bottles are here. 9.2% are with me. Another 70 people are the same. I've been drinking whiskey and enjoying whiskey and sharing whiskey passionately for 19 years this year. The accumulation of exploration over those 19 years has put me in a position where I was going to have a large collection anyway. Then add into the fact in 2017 I kick off a YouTube channel, and it just grows arms and legs and becomes crazy. But there's another 69 people out there at least, Andre, that are the same as me. But generally speaking, look at this. Between 100 and 200, it's 26.5%. Add that to 50, 21.8%, between 50 and 100. So half of our community are sitting on between 50 and 200 bottles. Would you be, how many bottles does Andre have?
At home in Germany, I left my collection because I didn't want to pay tax on all of that, bringing them here. So
Sure.
I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. I just thought it would be around 30, but then I said, oh, there are these bottles and those bottles. Okay, will be between 50 and 100, I guess.
So you're the classic ostrich with his head in the sand, right? You've got a rough idea.
There are a lot of bottles that I just liked, and there are a lot of like trophies, I would call it, because we did a lot of special editions. Maybe some people know these Signatory Samurais and the Vikings. That's bottlings that I did, and the first cask I've ever signed for to buy. These trophies I just want to keep to remember these times.
Sentimental, and a good word, trophies, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of them are probably just especially important to you, so they're just for you.
Yeah, yeah. Some bottles, they look like every other bottle, and there's nothing special
Yeah.
about them. And it just had a special meaning for me, and so I had to keep those.
What's surprising to me here is that if you look at what you've just mentioned between 20 and 50, that's, you speak about maybe, it looks like about 18% of the community. So if we add you between 20 and 200 bottles at home, that's this red, yellow, and green section here. Huge. Then between 200 and 400, this is, if anybody is just starting out in whiskey, don't look at this and be panicked. This is an inevitable outcome of being a whiskey bother or a bottle chaser, or somebody who's just wanting to try whiskies. It does happen. You accumulate bottles. More than 400 is crazy to me. And in fact, the lowest number there are people who are sitting on fewer than 20. That's just a measure, by the way, not of people who love whiskey, but people who love whiskey and take the time to watch YouTube videos about it. It's the real kind of jagged end of the spectrum, the enthusiast side. So we know we're speaking to our audience by looking at that. Now, the next interesting thing, Andrew,
Can I add something to the first chart? So
yes,
what I would add, we are talking about the not the lowest, but the second lowest category is 20 bottles. So from the viewpoint of a normal person, 20 bottles is huge. And if the people who have 20 bottles at home would just drink them from now on and wouldn't buy anything else, it would still be years. And that's more or less the lowest category. And we shall not forget that. And apart from that, at least the ones, the voters from Germany, as I said, there are a lot of these bottle shares. They have a lot of samples. So they're in my best times, I had over 1,500 samples. So every distillery, every age, every cask type was available at whatever point. So, and if you do so many bottle shares, of course, you don't buy so many bottles. You're just drinking the samples, and whenever there's something good, then you try to get the bottle afterwards. So all these samples, if you count these in and calculate this as full bottles, if you have like 14 together at 50 at 5 cl, so that's a lot more.
I think it's very important that you mention that, because this poll and most of our discussion tonight won't even touch on the sea, the ocean of samples that we have as well. If we're fortunate, by the way, that's a very fortunate thing to be in a position to have people willing to share samples with you and for you to enjoy them. Absolutely. Would you be willing to share what percentage do you think of your collection is open?
3 bottles. But that's just because I'm in Scotland. If I would be in Germany, it would be probably 20, I would guess.
Okay. Yeah. I asked the question, drinker or hoarder, how many would you say are open? It's fascinating to me and very, very reassuring to me. Remember, we have to contextualize, it's my community, our community, Andre. But if we look at the people that are, for example, most of the bottles open, almost 20% are saying most of them are open. More than half, 11.3. Even here, all of them, 41. And then around half, 11.2. So we can see that the community is probably divided right across the middle here. Half and half, most open, and the other half saying, I have a few open, or a bit less than half. So this down here is a bit less than half. This tells you that my community, there are not a lot of collectors here. Here's the little tiny sliver here. Oh, none or almost none are open, right? It's 5 people. So we're here because we enjoy the liquid. We enjoy drinking whiskey, and that's good. That means there is probably, if you look at the community, about half of their collection could be liquidated into cash through auction, trading, selling, whatever. But the other half, open bottles, are worthless. They're only of value, which is the best value, for sharing and drinking. Okay? So we're split half and half right now. Half of those, half of that Glass Loch right now would seem to be open bottles. Would you agree? Around half.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's
But what would you consider? What would you consider like something like this? Can you see it? It's a closed bottle. It's a Pulteney
yep.
distillery bottling, and I didn't open it, but I unsealed it. So is this an open bottle or is it closed? I cannot sell it anymore. It's already open. It's destroyed.
Open. It's open. That's
yeah.
it's an open. The seal's
Basically,
broken.
it's open.
I mean, you could, if someone really wanted that bottle and were willing to accept, they didn't want it as a precious object. They wanted to have it and drink it. I think that if I was interested in that to drink, I would take it from you. But generally speaking, that's the type of bottle that as soon as the seal is broken, it's an open bottle.
Yeah.
That said, I think that there are other sources that talk about whiskey out there that would attract people who are interested in sealed bottles. I have sealed bottles here, and I have sealed bottles that are just waiting to be opened, and they can happen anytime. Other bottles will wait for a special time. But generally speaking, for me, sealed bottles are a frustration for me. I want to know what it tastes like.
Absolutely.
So it's a frustration. I want to, and sometimes people are here and say, "Oh, I've never tried this. The bottle's sealed," and that's a good enough excuse for me just to open it. So I think we are speaking to. We have to be careful that it's not an echo chamber and things, but we're speaking to people that are very similar to us in a general sense. But I think if we go back to your video in December, if we go back to the topic that you spoke about, the dynamics that you spoke about, one of the very reassuring things, despite the prices doing this, taxes, duties doing this, interest rates, everything, the cost of living going crazy, our community just relaxes, just switches off. They just say, I've got thousands of bottles. I can just relax and wait to see what happens. This is very comforting for us. That we can just say no and stop. I'm going to jump into the chat for a minute because I know that I've been ignoring them quickly. But I think that we need to put a scale on things. We need to put a size on this. And I know that people in the chat will be sharing their numbers and things as well. Erwin Laranaga, good to see you, Erwin. I went from buying 5 to 8 bottles a month to 1 every other month or so, unless there's a good deal, of course. It's very common right now, Erwin. It's Jimmy Legg is saying, yeah, but most of that is Macallan Aquaviti. I don't think so for a second. I would put a guess that even if I was to go out to my own personal collection of Macallan is a half bottle of 12-year-old. That's all I have. And before I bought that bottle of 12-year-old, I think it was a decade I was without Macallan on the shelf. It just doesn't appear. So, you don't have to be you don't have to engage with us in order to be a successful whiskey brand, but you have to decide what kind of whiskey brand you are. And if your first primary market is enthusiasts, then you can't really use the Macallan model. It won't work because they are the prime luxury brand in Scotch whiskey, and there's not a lot of room for many more up there. Falsgraf is saying, what do you think the inheritors of those individual Glass Lochs will do with the stuff? Suddenly there will be all those vintage bottles on the market again. That's Klaus get excited for the future. I like the idea. And of course, maybe not just a case of me passing on my sealed bottles as an inheritance, but me just maybe deciding that I don't love whiskey anymore or having a change of whatever. And any sealed bottles inevitably ends up in the secondary market. I don't think there's ever been a time where there's been this amount of sealed bottles in collections before. Sugar Kitty, good to see you. We don't need the community to step in for the poll. We need the community to raid your house and drink all the whiskey. Sugar Kitty, if you ever make your way over here, you're welcome to be part of that horde. Jason Whiskey Wise is saying, I'm guilty of over 400 bottles as well. It just happens. Especially when you've got opportunities like you have, Jason, through your job. You're going to have some really nice bottles. I suggest that we don't trash my house. We do Whiskey Jason's house as well, Jason Whiskey Wise. Rob Smith is saying, it took me a long time to be purple Aquaviti. I don't know if he's talking about his barfly or if he's talking about in the poll there. Daniel Williams has bought me a wee dram, just with a thumbs up, buying me a wee dram from from the Netherlands. Daniel, buddy, I hope you're doing okay, and thanks for the drama, friend. Cheers to you. Pour something else in the glass. Pour something nice. I've done my signatory. What will I have here? One of my revelation bottles of last year. A wee 18-year-old from Tomatin. What's in your glass, Andre?
It's a Ball Blair. It's a distillery bottling from a tour, from a visit. Like 60 years old, first fill bourbon, cask strength, single cask, perfect plus. That's stunning.
Fantastic. So there you go. He's visiting other distilleries too. You're a lot closer to Ball Blair than I am. You could be up there in less than 3 hours, right? But it'd take me a wee bit longer than that.
Yeah, but still a long drive.
Yeah. Glenn Duncan is saying, what's for you, I'll find you. I even think I need a new hiding place. There's an inevitability. And by the way, everything that we talk about tonight, when we disclose all of this sheer scale of what I don't want people to be intimidated and think that, oh, I'll only have a few bottles. It's a modest collect. It's not. You'll get there, and whatever you have is appropriate to where you are in whiskey right now. And if you have 1 million bottles on the shelves, I'm not here to shame either. As Jason Whiskey Wise just said, it just happens. And it's a passion, and it's something that we love. Far more concerning how much you're drinking. Greg's Whiskey Guide is saying, I only have a bottle of Macallan at home, one bottle of Macallan at home. And it's not even an official, but a trusty, affordable Spey malt from G&M. Now I have Mac alternatives, yes, and that's probably the best thing because they equal value. Fantastic, Greg. I hope Greg in France is doing well too. So we've put a size on it. Let's go in and ask, what's the intent? I know what your intent is, Andre. I feel like I know you. I feel like I'm speaking to a kindred spirit. But I asked the community, what is their intent? Why would they buy all these bottles? And here's what they had to say. I asked them, what are your bottles for? Almost everybody's responded. 775 answered this out of 779 that were as it stands. All are for opening and drinking. 53.5% say all are for opening and drinking. And the next up, 34.5%. So that's taking care of almost everyone. Most are for opening and drinking. So our community are not collectors. And then by the time you get round to here, it's a mix of bottles. And then here, most are for trading or selling. And somebody that will only open a few, that's 1.5%, only 12 people from 781. So the intent, this is important, Andre, because we are here. This intent, we're here not because we want to make money from this thing. We don't want to buy something inexpensively and sell it expensively. We are not railing and campaigning because our profits are being eroded. We are upset because
it's about exploration. It's about experience. It's about the new whiskey, the next cask, the next.
The more whiskey that stays sealed and becomes commoditized, the more frustration it brings. It also quickly, I believe, burns out the love and the passion for it. Because the reason that people love collecting whiskey is because maybe they don't appreciate it, but they are aware that the liquid inside is really, really special. How is anyone going to know the liquid is special unless there are a cohort of people out there drinking it? And eventually it just might as well be at some point in the future, the worst whiskey arguably is the stuff that should stay in the sealed bottles. And the best whiskey should be put into affordable bottles. I don't know. I feel like it might actually be happening from time to time. But there we go. So we've put a measure on our community. I think we need to go into the next bit as well, and this is the bit that's going to amplify the message that you were referring to in your video of December. I asked people about their motives and the future. I asked them about their buying, how many they'd bought in the previous year, and how many they thought they were going to be buying in the road ahead. Let's have a wee look at that. So here's a temperature check. How people were feeling about the collection, how people are once they've just done a bottle count, they know. People that saying I have too many is pretty small. I'm surprised how small it is. 117, 15% of people say they have too many. 40%, so we're now over half, I have a lot, but I'm okay with it. And then the next biggest chunk, almost a quarter, saying I have a lot, but it will likely grow. So there's some pragmatism here. In this red and orange section, so more than 60%, people are pretty comfortable with what they have. People that are keen, I need more, it will grow, 8%. And people that are ambivalent, they don't really plan it, 10%. So what we're saying is the people that are saying that despite the sheer scale I've just labeled and put on this thing, there's nobody's having regret, Andre. That's what I take from this. People are not regretful.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, but it is like that. And then also for the topic before about collections, it's also there when you can argue about that. But from my experience, if I keep a bottle and say, oh, there are too many open bottles, and I just put it on the shelf and I find it again and 2 years later, so it's not that special anymore. At that moment where you buy it, you're hyped, you're on fire, you're
Yes.
happy about your catch, and then that's the moment where you should open it and have at least one dram, not years later when you forgot why have you been so interested in this bottle. So you may forgot sometimes. So and yeah,
I agree with that. I think that sounds fantastic. It's a good way to look at it as well. Yeah, there are some special bottles that we keep for a special time, but so many bottles just fall down the cracks and they're forgotten about. You're absolutely right. Okay.
yeah.
Habits. So now we talk about how things have been going and how things will go over the next two snapshots. So I've asked them relative to the period before, what happened to your purchasing in the last 6 to 12 months? So I'm talking about the majority of 2023 here. People that are suggesting that it's slowed or come to a stop, this backs up what you have been saying. Let's start with people that's saying it's increased. It's increased a lot. We've got 5%, increased a little, 11%. People that's saying it's about the same, 20%. But then a massive 29.7%, it's slowed a little. 30%, it has slowed a lot. And people that's saying it has stopped, 2.3%. And that the three of those, stopped, slowed down a little, or slowed down a lot, makes up over 60% of our community. That doesn't surprise you based on what you've just been saying, right?
Absolutely not. And it's the same for me. Like 2 years or 3 years ago, there is a nice bottle, I'm interested, buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it. Now I'm having like 3 open bottles. I'm fine if there's something peated, something unpeated, something with sherry, bam. I have everything I need. I have 3 bottles to follow or whatever. I'm fine. And it's not also because it's not just because I'm I'm smarter now or whatever. It's because of the prices. For me, it's just because of the prices, and maybe also because a small bit because of the variety and the availability. Because some years ago there were like some special editions, and you had to get them, and you there's no time to think about it and to consider or whatever. Either you buy it or you will never get it. But now everything is on the market. Everything is on the market. You don't have to be quick. You don't feel to, oh, I have to, I'm going to miss something. That's the, yeah, we'll get to that point later, I guess, about the reasons I want. Yeah, so that's also a point. But the availability and the variety of bottlings is so huge. It's just.
So yeah, I accept and I agree with you fully. A mantra of the vPub is to constantly talk about prices. Sometimes I worry that I talk about price too much. Then you realize that no, it's fundamental to the enjoyment of this hobby. I'm sorry, and it's one of the most limiting things. Sure, the space that you have and the availability, what's accessible to you, these are all limiting factors. But price is absolutely crucial. I think it's there are
It is.
people in the world that don't need to worry about price. Sure, it's not me and it's not anybody I know. So that's the perspective I speak about. Absolutely. So price fatigue, but also saturation.
Yeah, and one guy put a comment under one of my videos. He said he was having his Christmas whiskey every year. It was the Talisker 18, and he just said it was just too expensive. This time I knew if I would buy it, I would have a bad feeling when I drink it. Usually, for myself, I know myself, I would probably go into the shop and say, okay, it's £30 more or whatever. It's the Christmas whiskey. Come on, just get it. Okay, it hurts for a short period of time, but you will be fine when you open it. But I know that if you spend too much on a particular bottle you have had all the years before, and you stop buying that because you said it's just too expensive. And then he said he didn't buy a Christmas bottle at all. So that tells me, I would just guess, he took a look around. He was willing to spend money, but he was going out of that shop and just saying, no, not this year. I'm out. I'm sorry. Because he would have a bad feeling when he opens the bottle. And he thinks about that price. And I think that matters a lot.
I hope that he found, I don't know, a nice bottle of Ardnamurchan or something to take the place. It's not 18 years old yet, but when it's there, my goodness. Okay, then if we take that forward, so we've got the snapshot from what's happened. We feel it, you feel it, you've talked about it loudly. And I asked them, what do they think will happen in the year ahead for 2024? It absolutely, if anything, it's even more impactful. It will slow a lot. Look at this, 37.4%. It will slow a little, 32.2%. 2/3 of the people out there are talking about it slowing down, and most of the remainder are talking about it not growing, just staying the same. I think if we look at these numbers, if we look at it will stop completely. So people planning to stop is significant. 4.334 people are planning to stop altogether. And only about a similar number, 36 people, 4.6%, being honest with themselves and saying it's probably going to increase a little. Some people saying, I don't know. Interestingly, 3 people are planning it will increase a lot. 3 people.
Yeah, they just started maybe.
Exactly. And that's okay. And if they are just starting, then hopefully they can take advantage of some of the bargains and things that's happening right now, the slightly cooler secondary and things like that. However, what that suggests is that to the industry, to producers, to people who have been releasing whiskey out there, over the last 12 months, you can see that this poll is not wrong. People are making conscious decisions to slow down, and their plan for the year ahead is to double down on that. So you need
Absolutely.
to change your model. If you continue to bring out 100 different finishes, slightly tweak a recipe, just bring out a new batch, you're going to need to slow down on that. You're going to need to stop because I think the market is saturated with too much variety and too little quality. We need to slow down a bit. And
yeah, that's what we would think, but I think it will be the opposite, because it's already now every bottle on the shelf tells its story. Every bottle on the shelf is screaming. The marketing is going on, and even if you start selling less, you start thinking, how can we increase our sales?
make it better.
And this is the time. Yeah,
Tell a better
this is the
story.
time where you're getting creative, inventing new bottles, new finish, new small batches, all these things you were just talking about. And this is going into the market from all sides. We have seen, like, the art bags. There were 5 special releases, like Bizarre BQ and Heavy Vapors and whatever. There was 1 every year. Now it was 5. We have seen the Angus Dundee stuff, the Tom and Towel, and the Glencadam having like all possible finishes thrown on the market, and this will come. I think it's just my prediction. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but they all will start to do something new, and all these bottlings have to scream because the market is loud and every other bottle is loud. If you're just standing on the market and just place your bottle on the shelf, no marketing, you're not screaming, you're not doing whatever, it won't sell. You have to do something. You have to move. It must be a lighthouse. Every single bottle on the shelf must be a lighthouse from the industry's perspective. So I guess the opposite will be the case. But I totally get your point. What you're saying.
And I know, and what you talk about, what speaks on the shelf and what we speak about, there's often quite a disconnect there. Because we know we've invested, we've purchased, we've shared as a community, but the majority of the people that look at that shelf are not connected with this community. It's interesting to see that. That's encouraging to me, because it means that our community has a possibility to grow, to swell further. But I have some opinions on that also, which I think I'm going to close out with tonight, because I think it's starting to affect things too. Yeah.
But if we see, if we have a look at the numbers again, if they what the people expect to buy in 2024, that's kind of funny, because the shelves are full, and the customers are saying we won't buy much in the coming year. So the consumers are full, the shops are full, the distributors are full, overstocked.
Yeah.
And now it's already at the distilleries. We got some new prices for cask rents when we have casks laying in other warehouses. And some of them tripled their prices, their rents. So these rents are per week. And if these are tripled,
they want to move it.
They want us to get the stuff out of there, because they don't have any space left, and they were producing, but nothing's going out. So you get a problem. And that's why you're raising the prices by 3 times.
So it's inevitable. We're going to continue to see more warehouses for a little while too. If we think about, I asked people, you and I had a chat about this. You can see there are lots and lots and lots of, there was a free field comment down here, so lots of people have chimed in with their own comments, and I guessed that Geschmack, I knew what that would mean in German, because I was asking people what their priority and motivation was for purchasing whiskey. What is it all about to you? And asked, what is relevant to your decision-making process? Space that you have, real estate, price, the variety, or you want backups to loved bottles, you want to expand your collection, you want to complete your collection, reputation of a bottle, reviews, all of this stuff, fear of missing out, exploration. In all of this, I felt that flavour and taste was implicit, but clearly not, because so many people have loudly said, no, I'm in it for flavour, I'm in it for flavour, I'm in it for flavour. So generally speaking, though, my thought process behind this is that before you buy a bottle, more often than not, you maybe personally don't know what it tastes like unless you've had a tasting, a festival, or whatever it may be. But you can see the main motivators here back up exactly what you've been saying there. Yes, people want to explore. People buy on the reputation. They want variety on their shelves. But everybody was allowed to cast 3 votes for here, which is why we see so many free fields down here. You can see by far the biggest driver is not a surprise to anyone, Andrew, right? Price. And I guarantee you, if I do this again in a few months' time with nothing else changing, that will only increase. It's just become a difficult thing for me not to talk about in the vPub, because my community are just exhausted now. They're becoming exhausted. They're happy that there is inexpensive stuff, but they can't see justification for a lot of the expensive stuff. It seems to be expensive just for the sake of it. Anyway, I take your point from this. What I should have added was flavour and taste. But here's a very, very interesting thing as we move on to what people are willing to spend. Andrew, this surprises me. Honestly, this surprises me. This £25 is one of the smallest here. If we look at from 25 to 50, people are comfortable there. But by far the most comfortable area is 50 to 75. And 75 to 100 is second place. Do you know what this tells me? We are willing to pay for quality. If we perceive quality, we are ready to pay. The problem today is that we are often let down, or we are not perceiving value for the prices that we're willing to pay here. That's how I interpret this. I expected this to be the highest one, 20 to 50, 25 to 50. For 50 to 75 to be the highest, and for 75 to be to £100 to be the second highest, that's a real surprise to me. Some people comfortable spending into triple figures. That's me on a very rare occasion. More than £150 is a once a year type purchase, I think. More than £250, I think that's once a decade potentially. I don't know. It's very, very rare. But that surprises me. Are you surprised by how much people are willing to pay, or maybe not?
If I would have guessed, I would, think, this could be real. So I would have guessed something similar, to be honest. And from my viewers, subscribers on YouTube, there were a few comments telling I would add 20% to the price if the quality is worth it nowadays. So even to today's prices, they would be fine if there would be £50 more if the quality is what you expect from the label, and you could be sure about that. So it's always a matter of taste, but if the quality is fine, the people are fine to spend that amounts of money. So it's different for everyone, sure, but it's the last 15 years that has led us to those numbers. So I think if we have done the same survey like 10 years ago, then there would be more people voting for the £50 category. So I would guess a lot of people just came into just became whiskey enthusiasts within the last 5 years, and they just know these prices, nowadays prices.
And their view of the cost of whiskey has probably shifted compared to ours.
Yeah.
There's a lot of truth in what you say. I think that's absolutely true. But I think what it also does is it reminds everyone and our community that we're not demanding cheap whiskey. We don't want cheap whiskey.
Not necessarily.
I know that there's a huge market for supermarket whiskey and cheap whiskey, and cheap whiskey will always sell, because there are people who like to drink whiskey, but they don't like to watch a YouTube broadcast or buy a whiskey book or learn history or all of these things. You know, they're just going to enjoy it as a drink, and that's completely understandable. And that makes up the vast majority of the whiskey marketplace. We are a very small minority, of course. But we are also, I believe, the nose of the dog. I think we drive a lot of interest, and we drive a lot of fashion, and we drive a lot of curiosity. We drive a lot of passion. We drive a lot of interest in Scotch whiskey, world whiskey, bourbon, whatever it is you drink.
Definitely. In the business, we are talking sometimes, it's not general for everyone, but some people are talking about the 1-9-90 rule. So the 1% that are the enthusiasts, they affect the next 9%, and they affect the other 90%. So that's maybe what we have just seen. These numbers, people paying these prices are the 1. And we are talking about that, and we are affecting now maybe 9 other percent, and people who will talk about these things with their friends. And so it's not 100% accurate, but you get the point. And I think
love it. I remember when we spoke last year, you told me about that. I know it's a common thing, and Germans would understand that. I've often talked about the 80-20 rule, but I think yours is much more fitting to our community. 1% affecting 9%, that's the top 10, and then that top 10 affecting the other 90% of any given potential market for any product. Not all products all of the time, but tech,
No.
Things that inspire an emotional reaction in people, something that inspires passion. I think that makes a lot of sense to me. So you and I, Andrew, I think we're in the 1%, right? Is that what we're saying, right?
Sure.
We are in a very, very small pool of people, but that's a nice place to be, and we enjoy being there.
I hate the word influencer, but in a positive way. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, influencers. Yeah. I think influencers very, very rarely, in my experience, refer to themselves as influencers, unless it's the purpose or the meaning or the. Whereas what you and I do, we
just
because we love whiskey. Influencing is an incidental thing that happens from it. So yeah, I'm here for the liquid and the people, definitely. George Ellis saying the price we pay depends on where we live. Springbank 10 is $100 plus in the USA, and integrity malts are hard to find at less than $70. Listen, George, you've hit the nail on the head, and we always have to contextualize the vPub, and the content that we speak about is often as he pulls out his cage bottling of Longrow from, is it a fresh sherry? It looks like a fresh sherry.
I don't know what it is. Longrow FS can be
fresh sherry. Yeah. Fantastic. It's a good one.
Perfect plus, good price.
Yeah, wee bit jealous. My bottle of that is, it's a Springbank. It's at the Bonaccord. If you meet me in the Bonaccord, ask for a dram while it lasts, right? Jimmy Legg is saying you're in the 1% of something other than people who still have goatees. That's right, both of it. Well, you've got a bit more than just a goatee, that's right. Are you suggesting I get rid of it, Jimmy? Suggesting I just ditch it. Mikey, hey, good to see you. Mikey saying evening all aquavite. Good to see you, and Mikey, good to welcome you. Just as it jumps again, I know you don't have to drive this, but occasionally. Martin Logan is saying incredible interest in vPub. I'll have to catch T. Oh, okay. Maybe that's you going to catch it a wee bit later, Martin. It's TEH. Gerben is saying, I'm not a collector, but will buy and save a bottle that will probably double in value because eventually it'll double my budget. A lot of people do that, and I think it's okay. We're not here to judge. You buy a bottle and you see it appreciating on your shelf in value. You can take that bottle, sell it on, and buy 2 bottles or more of something else. There's a lot of us do that. We don't do it out of intent. It's not the reason we buy the bottle, but we're pragmatic and say, I'd think it would be irresponsible not to do that. I wonder how many bottles are left like that these days. Everyone, Chris is saying, I have not slowed down too much, but shifted away from the big price gougers and looking for less expensive quality options. There is no doubt that lots of people are finding a lot of, that's why we're interested in blends today, Chris, isn't it? That's why we're interested in blended malts. That's why we're interested in, and we're much more accepting of new distilleries, of non-age statement and things that would have been difficult for us to take on board 15 years ago. We're much more open to. Jimmy Legg is saying, never get rid of it. Okay, I think you might have been in a fight with my wife about that. And Kel Taylor is saying, don't ditch the beard. Go all in. And Whiskey with Molly is saying 21 days off the sauce today hasn't stopped me buying 4 bottles in that time. And this is the passion. So he's doing dry January. This is Ben, Whiskey with Molly. And you said it, Andre, didn't you, when you talked about open the bottle when it's fresh in your hands, when you just get it, because that's when you're most excited. We cannot and we should never deny the fun that's involved in us getting a new bottle of whiskey of something we love and the promise that it could potentially bestow upon us, right? Yeah, it's part of it.
In Germany, in the online forums, there are every year challenges at the beginning of the year, and people are taking part of it, and they fight against each other. They try to not buy bottles as long as they can, but they're honest. And then I said, okay, there came the other bottle. I just have to get that. I'm out. I'm sorry. So, but some people are doing it like for months. So,
so let me ask you then. Mike Whiskey Wings was in tonight, and him and Duncan, they do a podcast, and they are challenging each other right now.
Yeah, for years.
Who can hold out the longest? Let me ask you, Andre. I don't know how many people we were at, but I think it was over 793 people as it stands just now. How many of those people are in that mindset now? They're in a huff. They're angry about the prices, accessibility, availability. They're angry about their wages are maybe worth less. They're angry about what they perceive as cynicism from an industry wanting to take advantage and take more money, even if they don't need it, to look after shareholders rather than customers.
Yeah.
Maybe this poll represents only that, only people that are angry. Could it be true?
At least some. There will be some, definitely. And I can understand that. And I think the older you are, the longer you are in these products and you see these prices. If you know, I don't know, let's say the Talisker 18, the Lagavulin 16, the Lagavulin 12, it just doubled in 3 years. So, and the distilleries, they're all saying, the costs went up and gas and blah, blah, blah. Yes, it all got more expensive, but you also could survive when the bottles were half that price. And you distilled it and you did it 12, 16, whatever years ago for low prices. So
prices, raw materials, energy costs, the resources, whether it's casks or grain or what, it's all going up. We understand it's all going up, but that doesn't explain how a very efficient distillery is 3, 4, 5 times the price of a very inefficient distillery in the same country.
No.
Springbank versus almost everyone else. Ardnamurchan versus countless others. There's so many where you can put the same age statements side by side, similar philosophies, similar. You can just, it's very, very easy to see when people are charging more through opportunism. There's no doubt.
Yeah, and sometimes they overdo. So
yeah.
You can see the bottles standing, the very expensive ones, the special ones, from time to time for years.
Yeah. Everyone is saying, I wish you could go back in time. I just can't afford to buy 2 bottles when I find one I really like often, but I should have. New whiskies will always cost more, but I'm glad for my bunker. And I think it needs a bit of that pragmatism. We can't go back in time, everyone. We can't go back, Chris. We just need to just be grateful for what we have. Red Mordecai is saying, I have some 30 bottles, which I bought to drink a few years ago for about £100, which I cannot bring myself to open now, as they're now selling for 400 in the UK. I understand, Reb, I do. And when you look at that and say 400, 100, really? But
unseal them immediately after.
Do an Andre. From here on forward, that we'll call it an Andre. You break it to mean that even if it goes up in value, it's still. Listen, but what we're saying is it's okay if Reb decides to take along these bottles, because if he's talking about 30 bottles that have quadrupled in price, that's a lot of money. Think of the things that he can do for his life and his family, and still replace those bottles on his shelf and still go on to share. Because there are people out there, and we can't fight that dynamic. There are people out there with more money than us that will pay more than us, even if the value isn't there in our mind. Whiskey Weekend Drama Harrow saying, in the first few days, I bought a bottle from another Instagrammer and then the cork was loose. I have to get it together not to buy more of them in 2023. Yeah, buy from trusted sources only. That has to be a 101, surely. Harrow, I hope you can get that sorted out, buddy. Des is saying, I'm deeply reliant on recommendations from fellow enthusiasts before I fork out my hard-earned cash. A fool and his money, as they say. Des, absolutely spot on. I hope that the community that you find yourself in here, wherever you find yourself in trusted whiskey communities, that's certainly a benefit we all enjoy. And you know what? I'll go one further than that. When someone that you enjoy their company and they're really enjoying a whiskey, it makes the whiskey more enjoyable for you to personally enjoy too. It's just part of it. It's okay not to agree and all of that stuff, but we do. I've got one more thing to share here. And this is probably the most obvious support question to your video that went out in December. I asked them what are their feelings about the choice of whiskey that's available today. Here's what they said. too much was 29%. There's a lot, but it's healthy. Some pragmatism coming in, 47%, and 17.1% saying there's enough. Only 16 people from nearly 800 have said there is not enough. And the rest of this is mixed comments from so many people. I'm going to see if there's a way that I can use those comments, maybe in the document that I publish. That, and the first of the questions that we opened with tonight, Andre, echoes your sentiment in your video. Surely we are at the point where we are now seeing fatigue and saturation. This is not fatigue and saturation because people are frustrated and they're tired of whiskey. No. We love whiskey. We will still go to our festivals and our whiskey clubs. We'll still arrange our tasting nights with our friends. We'll still drink the whiskey that we have. Our frustrations, our saturation, our fatigue is with the value proposition. It's broken.
Yeah, it is. And also the trust. And but yeah, as I said, I would guess there will be even more because of the situation. And also, we are Signatory. We have introduced new products, new ranges like that 100 proof, because we hear from all of our distributors, the only things that are working now are very cheap, very expensive. So, and that's what they will tell all other distilleries, bottlers, whatever. So they will react at some point in time. So, and the big ones, of course, they are not that flexible. They cannot change their process. If they want to invent a new bottling, it will take months, if not a year, with packaging and casks, and they have a strict plan what casks to use for when, and they cannot just invent a new bottle from now to tomorrow or whatever. So some distilleries are more flexible. I think there was a good thing from the Glass Loch distillery. They're high price, I would say, rather higher price, and they released a Kirk Cowan bottling. So they don't attack their own range. They don't attack their own prices.
It's not Glass Loch. It's not Glass Loch. Yep.
Yeah. So there's another name. It's very small on the back side of the bottle, on the back label. Distilled at Glass Loch distillery. I think there is, but that's a very nice thing. That's something affordable, something for the people, and that's a way out of the situation. And I could imagine some others will follow that. So, and there could be some new things.
Yeah. And it's also, honestly, I hear what you're saying. They want to protect the brand and everything, but it is also an admission, because it's an admission that they need to sell product, but they realize what they've put forward is too expensive and it's not worked. It's not going to be possible for them to discount. It's not a good look. It's not a good strategy. No. So they go with alternative branding or whatever.
Yeah.
I think we will see more of that. Listen, I'm finished this poll.
There are a lot of different perspectives. So some of the distilleries, some of these big companies, they won't change prices. They won't change anything. They would wait for India. They will say, we are fine if we sell less. We are regenerating stocks and so on. So it's different for everyone. There could be a very new distillery, yeah, that is like has their first releases this year in 2024. I think there are 17 to 20 distilleries that could potentially have their first release, roughly. I don't know, maybe you know a better number. And some of them won't care about the situation. If they say, okay, then we will not release this year, we will wait, we are fine, we have a bit money, we can survive. Some others, they got their money from the bank and they did their business model, and their business plan is saying, when we are 3 years old, we will start releasing, and then we will start to pay back some money. Those distilleries will have a problem. So
the inaugural is usually has the interest. The second release, the third release, the ongoing releases is difficult. It's very difficult. And I think we're seeing Even with a lot of the new distilleries, a lot of the incumbent distilleries, everybody are just, they're all releasing too much product. It's almost like a car manufacturer. If all the car manufacturers released a car for every category, from a tiny, tiny two-seater to a huge SUV and all the sports cars and everything in between, there would be too much choice. And I think that that's a danger that we're facing in whiskey today also. And that says, this poll says so much of that. I'm going to close out this poll just for you and I to relax together now. I just want to show that I will do something with this. There's 248 very, very interesting responses here underneath. I've got a few that I'll read out just now, just for the sake of picking out a few random ones or whatever. But I will do something with these. I will do something with this content. There's too much time and effort by the community gone into it for me to not do anything with it. So I will figure out something to do with it. Let me read a couple of these tonight. I have far too many bottles, says an anonymous commentator. Taking a step back does look ridiculous. It does look ridiculous, but I'm hoping to be able to open them and enjoy them responsibly, share with friends over many years. For now, I'm looking to avoid buying more bottles unless I've been able to try them and they are exceptional. There's another takeaway from tonight: discernment. With the amount of bottles that we have and the amount of availability that there exists, especially if people step in with more attractive value propositions, as you mentioned, the 100 proof, the Bladnock offering, these kind of things, I think we're going to see a lot of people doubling down on discernment. They will only open up and spend if they find something that's really attractive. Natural colour, this commentator says, almost always indicates to me a non-chill filtered product. Also, when my children ask what kind of scotch to buy me for gifts, I used to say anything with an age statement. Well, now I tell them anything that mentions natural colour on the bottle. I'm keeping it simple. And finally, I've got one here because I noticed the name. Well, I say his name. Maybe I'll know what to say his name. Maybe I won't. But the last one I want to read out is that there are now far too many releases where the producer has seen the excitement of the last few years and thought, I'm joining that bandwagon. Quick, let's get something in a fancy bottle. Everybody remotely interested in whiskey these days is very well informed about all the actual desirable releases, and in no small part thanks to sources of information like your whiskey community. So there we have it. I'm not going to mention who that is, but it's somebody also who's in the industry too. It's three random comments there. There's more and more and more feedback for anybody that cares to read it. I'll put it together. I'll remove I'll make it all anonymous, because I promised people the poll would be anonymous. I'll make it all anonymous and I'll put it out there for anybody that wants to read it. I think it'd be interesting for everyone to read the community feedback on it all. Andre, I'm going to bully you into staying for a quiz at the end tonight, but I want to sign out here because I've got a very, very specific take on it. And I felt it when I watched your video in December. There was a feeling inside me. And the feeling was, you were saying what we already were suspicious was happening. We could see it, we could witness it, but we knew, if we were honest about ourselves, we were part of it. We were slowing down. The fervour of the pandemic years had passed. New distilleries, inaugural bottlings, special limited editions, single casks, new age statements, special celebratory bottles. It is endless. And we are now reaching a point that we are fatigued and we are saturated. Add in the cynical, and I'll use the word abusive, pricing, and it makes it easy for us to kick back and relax in our thrones of whiskey. We have so much whiskey that we've building up based on a passion and a love for the product. It is now in the hands of people who are capable of encouraging more passion, more love for that product, and getting us more interested with integrity and quality and making real meaningful connections. But unfortunately, it's been driven by people who are in it for opportunism, today, short term, shareholders potentially, rather than building a long-term offering. Here's my takeaway, Andrew. See what you think about this. Our community has been growing and growing and growing, but it's not a surprise to anyone that people are passionate about whiskey these days. I think the community has plateaued. It's not growing at the speed it once was. The people that we need to come in and help that community to grow cannot get on the bottom rung of the ladder because price. Even the ones who can maybe start to participate and enjoy to keep that community growing, the ones that can afford it, they are presented with a scene that is so unnecessarily complex, so saturated, so unnecessarily spoiled with too much choice of variation rather than select quality, that it's going to be difficult. And in order for that to continue to grow, they need Andre from Germany. They need all of the community that's in here tonight to tell them how good a thing whiskey can be when enjoyed responsibly, and to give them a guiding hand to show them an ever more complex environment and how to navigate it. How is that going to continue when even people like us are becoming fatigued? This is my concern.
That's a lot of things. That would be another stream to talk about. But in terms of price, I just said in one of my videos, it's like when the pay TV was starting and all the football or soccer went there and nobody could see it anymore. So why, if the kids couldn't see it and they don't see their Ronaldo and Messi and whatever, they won't start playing football, you know?
Yeah.
And then the teams will get worse in 10 years' time. That's similar. That's not the same one-to-one, but it's something like that. So, and you just cannot access it if the quality starts at £100.
Exactly.
So you cannot get into it. Or even if you have a nice bottle, it can also be, you can always have a very nice bottle for £50 or £70. You drink it at your neighbor's birthday or whatever.
Yeah.
Then you may think, oh, maybe I will get another whiskey. And how much is it? How much is that kind of bottle? Yeah, it's £50. Okay, I'm out. You don't even consider. If you're new to it, that's just too much. It's just too much. The entry level is too expensive already.
And what is the scene? What is the whiskey community going to look like if the only people that are drinking and enjoying whiskey and passionately talking about whiskey look like me? Because I've had the ability to accumulate whiskey over time. And who's my audience going to be? Who's my community? Who can I guide if they can't participate because the quality isn't there, it's not that enjoyable, or because they can't afford the things that are enjoyable? I'm going to pour a wee, this is an Elements of Islay, a wee peaty whiskey to take me through the quiz at the end. Are you going to pour something?
I'm now going to the long row.
Of course. You go for the big gun too, the peaty long row, and
Yep.
I'll go for this wee blended malt from Elements of Islay. Terrific. I think, you know what, Andre, I remain confident. I remain optimistic and a little bit pragmatic that I think that what's going to happen is that we're going to find a way as a community to navigate what we're going through. We'll discover when the secondary is going a bit cooler and there's bargains to be had on the secondary. That's a shame, but we'll find ways to support our local retailers, our bricks and mortar places. They're part of the community. They're part of the front line. They're ones that we speak to. They're ones that we get our intelligence and our information from.
They're one of us. They're one of us. And a whiskey shop owner, most of them, I would just think they're not whiskey shop owner by accident. They are whiskey shop owner because they love it.
Exactly.
And they're part of us, and we should not tell them, oh, they're charging so high prices. They're not part of these things underpricing in supermarket. They didn't put the auctions down. They didn't do all that. They love whiskey. They want to share whiskey with us. They want to share their enthusiasm with us. And the whiskey shop owners, which only have whiskey, or the majority of their stuff is whiskey,
Yep.
they're dying.
And this is the
more and
problem,
more,
because
unfortunately,
when these 3 for 2
yeah.
offers, these deep discounts, these flash sales, these are the high traffic, high volume outlets that are able to do this. And these frontline, the people that are teaching people glass by glass, sample by sample, taste by taste, discussion by discussion about how good whiskey is and bringing them in. The people are working as brand ambassadors for so many brands in these bricks and mortar shops are being skipped.
Yeah.
I can't preach to anyone. I can't tell anyone where to buy their whiskey from. I buy my whiskey online, a lot of it online. But I buy a lot of my whiskey from my local retailers as well. When I buy my whiskey from local retailers, sometimes I'll have to pay £2, £3, £4, £5 more.
That's fine.
I never leave thinking I've not paid the right amount. Never. What the experience of it all, it's if we ever reach a space where we don't have bricks and mortars, whiskey retailers, whiskey specialist shops, that's a huge loss, and it will ultimately undermine the community.
It is a very huge loss, and it's also, some people think, okay, from the business perspective, from the viewpoint of the industry, they don't matter. But for a lot of companies, they matter a lot, because they can get the customers, the enthusiasts, they can talk to them. They can explain, this is the new distillery, this is a bottling containing these casks, and blah, 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 can talk about the history, can
explain the differences, the why, and the exact, and they know, because a part of their job, they're tasting.
Yeah.
Even if you speak to somebody who can help you online, what's the chances of them having tasted the product that you're asking about?
Yeah.
It's very small.
Yeah.
It's very small.
And they're very, very important, because in the end, if there is only Amazon left, there is no one explaining. There's no one let you taste. There's no one doing tastings. There's no one teaching you.
If there's only Amazon left, Amazon will only sell you what Amazon want to sell you.
You have to pay if you want to be on the first page. But if you're a new distillery and list your products, or someone lists your products at Amazon, you are page 390. Nobody will see you. So we have to avoid that, definitely.
Has stayed true, says Falsgraf, for the last 10 to 15 years, and a quality entry has to be sub €30, and that will only rise in a few years' time. So Falsgraf is still suggesting that we need to have, I think there are sub £30 whiskies out there. So listen to
I just exchanged some mails with Ralphie the other week, and he also said he's confident there will be always some nice, affordable whiskey on the market.
Yeah. Yeah.
We will get something. We will find something. Yeah.
And that's something that I'm going to make. It's always been part of the vPub, but it's something I'm going to try and focus on in 2024. It's okay to go for £50, £75, £100. As we saw, the community kind of collects around that price point. Is okay. But I think that it's nice to show people that are coming in that feel intimidated by all of this, that there's entry-level stuff that you can love. Whiskey with Molly is saying, but also the influencers, in quotation marks he's put it, that are taking coin off producers for false reviews have a lot to answer for, Aquaviti. Absolutely. And I hope I don't need to even say that is never, ever, and will never happen around these corridors. Black Fen is saying, Aquaviti, cue my frequent bleat that 20cl bottles are underrated. I agree with you, Conrad, and is an entry-level proposition. For many people, £20 is the upper limit for a bottle of alcohol they don't know if they'll like. That's right. Isn't it frustrating that only Diageo seem to, as everybody knows from my confession last week, continue to offer a 20cl offering? Jimmy Legg has bought me a dram to say, I don't think the industry is trying to steal our money. Particular owners are, but I don't think anyone is stealing from this community. Well, let's hope, long may that continue, Jimmy. We help each other. We look out for each other. help each other make informed decisions through independent, unsullied, and honest opinion. Andre, I take my hat off to you, my friend. You've been in the industry for a while now. Every single interaction or discussion I've had with you only amplifies the feeling I have that you are absolutely a whiskey lover and an impassioned enthusiast at heart, and that comes across at every stroke. You at no point tonight have you've used your position and your view to talk about and what you feel as an enthusiast, and to add just a different layered perspective onto that as well. I really appreciate it. I know you've got your own thing going on there on YouTube. I know that for you to come on here and hang out with me and speak English to an English, mostly English first language audience, and it's going to be, there's not a lot in that for you. But if anybody understands or speaks German, please go along to Andre's channel, Whisky Tales. In fact, Andre, can I drop a link in for you just now in the hope that some people can discover who you are? All your content goes out in German though, right?
Yes. Yes.
Whiskey
I've seen the
Tales.
link in the comments for sometimes. I think what was her name?
Probably it'll be Sugar Kitty or somebody. One of the moderators have
Kitty?
been putting it in. So
Sugar Kitty was it? Yeah.
Sugar Kitty's always pretty good at doing the obvious things that need to be done that I forget. Aye, fantastic. Listen, can I bully you into staying for the quiz at the end?
Yes.
Good. Do you participate in the quiz at the end?
Yeah, sure.
You normally do, or?
I always do, and but it's very mixed. Most of the time, the barflies are much smarter than me, and yeah, it always depends. Sometimes it's very bad. Sometimes it's good. Yeah, it's always different. It's completely different.
So we'll shoot for a pass mark tonight. We'll shoot for a 5 out of 10 pass mark tonight. I think it's going to be a mixed bag tonight, but I think it's mostly fair. Let's hope it's mostly fair. It's always difficult to imagine. Listen, I hope everybody's had a wee bit of fun tonight. The vPub has to stay mostly positive, but I don't think that we've just sat around and kind of been throwing stones all night. This is important to talk about these things. It's important for our awareness and to know where we are and understand that a lot of the time we're paying a wee bit more for certain expressions and distilleries and things that we would normally be comfortable with. But also it's important to give feedback to the industry and tell people this is how we're feeling. I'm going to try and figure out ways to continue to use this data so that people can harness it and use it. Maybe keep this poll live for a little bit longer and then publish the comments that have gone underneath it alongside it as well for feedback's sake. But also we need to remember that there remains producers out there who are very, very good at bringing us integrity, flavour first quality. They're very, very good at pricing in a balanced way, pricing to look after their own business and pricing to look after the long-term health of that business and their customers. That is very much part of the whiskey landscape. What I would be worried about is whiplash, reactionary policies and strategies where a producer, because of their scale, because they're the bully in the playground, can suddenly choke out integrity, smother out honesty, just because they have the scale and the size to do so. I know that it's business. I understand that it's business. I really do. But what we do in our side of enjoyment of whiskey is not. It's emotional. It's passionate. It's a love of the product. Make our choices based on where we perceive, not cheap, not opportunistic. Make our choices based on where we find integrity. I think if we support that, our future will always be brighter going forward. Andre, thank you so much for being honest and not afraid and very, very candid with us all tonight. Thank you, my friend, and hang around, won't you, for this quiz.
Thanks for having me.
Dorpass Whisky saying just the other day, I saw Whiskey Buzz had a German online Scotch Whisky Award live stream. She was one of the people I suggested for the Oswas previously. It's a good one. And listen, the Oswas are not restricted to English-speaking channels only. It can be, as you know, hopefully we've got that message across in the Oswas now. If you're broadcasting, if you're sharing, writing reviews, if you're involved in guidance and whiskey in any other language, you can get involved in the Online Scotch Whisky Awards. It's open to everyone. Tim, thank you very much for your drama, friend. And Whiskey with Molly has just, Ben, you're a star. Thank you so much. Despite the fact you're sitting there with a cup of tea tonight, no doubt, you're gifted out 5 Aqua Vitae memberships. Thank you, Ben. Thank you so much. All right, fella, let's see what the quiz has got in store for us this evening. Remember, everybody, the quiz at the end is meant to be a wee bit curious. It's meant to bring a wee bit of enlightenment, a bit of fun, a bit of education, but don't take it too seriously. It's always multiple choice, so you've always got a 33% chance of getting it right. With a wee bit of following the crowd, a wee bit of intuition, a wee bit of gut, you can often do much, much better than that. You only share the score if you want to. We have fun and say that pass mark is 5 out of 10, but sometimes the questions are banana skins, or the question at the end is an asshat deliberately awkward. Good luck, Andre.
Yeah, try again, fail better. Oh.
Yeah. Let's see how many people can do better than our informed guest tonight. Let's start it off quite easy. Question 1. Which brand associated with Robert Burns released a 5-year-old expression today?
I know.
I'll hold and ask you, and I'll let you know when to share with us, Andre. You're confident already. Is it A, Isle of Arran, B, Loch Lee, or C, Loch Lomond?
There could be a banana skin. Could be.
It could be. Greg's Whiskey is saying we all know, right? Andre seems to know. Some people are not so sure. Too Slow is saying no. Rob, stick with it. Go with the crowd, my friend. Go with the crowd. Yeah, this has come out today. Unfortunately, I have a love for this distillery. I think there's a lot of products come out from it. I understand why. This one came out today. 5-year-old age statement. I think it was priced a wee bit expensive, but it matters not, because it sells out everywhere. It's going to sell out industry because because of how special it is. Alistair McPhail's bought me a wee dram. Roy, sorry I missed almost all of this vPub, but my little time in the chat has shown yet again what a great community this is. Thank you and stay well, my friend. Slantia. Loch Lee, he's calling it. He's bought me a super chat to answer. I love the style, Alistair McPhail. Fantastic. Cheers. Would you agree with Alistair? Is this Loch Lee, Andre?
Yes, it is.
Absolutely, absolutely. I had a wee picture of it, but I didn't float it in because I don't want to drop something in that I've noticed it's sold out everywhere. I wasn't interested in buying that particular one. I'll leave that one for the collectors, and I'll let Loch Lee mature a wee bit longer. Hopefully, we don't need to pay £90 for mature Loch Lee in the future.
They have good stuff. They have good stuff. It's a nice distillery. I've been there. When I worked for the German distributor, I was the one to convince them to work with that company. And it was a full success, and I was able to try some samples, and the people are great.
Great team, great vibe, great feel.
Yes.
John Campbell at the helm. Everything's going in the right direction, being well received. I think six core expressions a year is a bit much every year. But listen, their core expressions are not ridiculously priced. It seems to be somewhere close to the balance. Question 2. Complete the set. Auchentoshan, Bamor, Lefroig, Glengarry, and one more. What's missing to complete that set of distilleries? A, Ardmore, B, Tom and Tell, or C, Tullibardine?
Yeah, fine.
Danny Hebbington is saying you've got it. I have 3 Loch Lees and enjoying. Graham Fraser saying I know this. Jimmy Legg is enjoying his 1 out of 1. Desi Vleeland is in here. Good to see you, Desi. I hope you're keeping well. Gabriel Welding is here. Good to see you, Gabriel. So many people in. I always feel guilty when I miss names. Per Christensen is here. Per, my friend, good to see you in the vPub. I hope you're doing well. Peter Box as well. Justin Wan, Dogs Have No Uncles, Colin, Thomas F, The Road to Dram, Philip Wagner, Orange Wheel Rule, and so many others. Great to see you in. Okay, what are we going with here, Andre? How do you complete Alcantoshan, Bumore, Lefroy, Glengarry, and...
I would put on Ardmore for the Beam Suntory.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the 5 distilleries currently owned, Scotch malt distilleries, that is, owned by Beam Suntory. Ardmore. Good stuff. Question 3. Which of the following producers release an expression called virgin oak? A, White Peak, B, Benromac, or C, Glengarry? Andre, were you hoping to see Deanston?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. 100%. And I'm not sure about this question, but I have a guess, but I'm not 100% sure. Definitely not.
Okay, good. I don't mind a few guesses. I really don't. Which of the following producers release an expression called virgin oak? I knew everyone would be looking. There's an argument there maybe should be a banana skin on this one, but no, I think it's pretty straightforward. I think it's going to be okay for everyone. Willie Dollier is in, answering C. Good to see you, Willie. And Whisky Veritas, that's Oliver. Good to see you, Oliver. Chris Banks Wildlife is here. Lachlan McKenzie, fantastic. Where's Roy in Norway? James Morgan, Graham Aiken. Kevin M. I wonder if that's the first time I've welcomed you in. And Seb K. Good to see you, Seb. Derek K. That looks like another new name. What are you going to guess, Andre?
Since I don't know Benromac or Glengarry Virgin Oak, I would have guessed it's White Peak, but I don't even know what it is, to be honest. It's even more embarrassing, probably.
No problem. You're safe.
Easy.
Easy. Nobody gets nothing out of nothing in the vPub. So White Peak has a virgin oak. Glengarry has actually, they have an expression called virgin oak. And Benromac recently brought out their air dried versus kiln dried series virgin oak. So theoretically, Glengarry, Deanston, but they all have virgin oak expressions. Freebie for everyone. Question 4. What is the name of the water source for Glengyle Distillery? Gimme. Now, do you know this one? Yes?
No idea.
Oh, okay. So we might have Andre on the fence for this one, or on the ropes for this one. What is the water source for Glengyle Distillery? A, Campbellton Loch, B, Crosshill Loch, or C, Loch Machrihanish?
I have a guess, but...
Good. Black Fennis saying Benromac Organic is also virgin oak. Thank you, Conrad. There was a time when virgin oak was very, very rare in Scotch whisky. There's quite a lot. There's more of it around these days.
I'm not the biggest fan, to be honest.
So no, I know. I think it has its place. I think it's okay. It works well with, obviously, it's used mostly with younger whiskies. But I suspect, and I know from our chat in December, Andre, that you and I are similar. We like to discover something that's been left alone in a less active cask for a long time, right? And unfortunately, that's just where we're always going to be drawn, I think. Okay, what's your guess going to be, Andre? Jimmy Legg is suggesting Glengyle, Springbank, and Glen Scotia are all the same. He's suggesting B. What would you go along with, Jimmy Legg? Or?
Yeah, I would also guess B, but I don't know. I know the last name. I cannot pronounce it, but that's
Machrihanish is the airport.
There will be a new distillery, but it's a bit far away to be the water source. The Campbellton Loch, right? Yeah. So I would guess it's B. I don't know at all.
Campbellton Loch is indeed saltwater. Loch Machrihanish, I don't believe it exists. It may exist, but I made it up. Crosshill Loch is the water source for, as Jimmy Legg says, Glen Scotia, Springbank, and Glengyle all together. Good stuff. 4 out of 4 for Andre, 4 out of 4 for our guest tonight, and most
a lot of luck.
A lot of luck. I'll be there in 3 days' time, says Oliver in Greg's Whisky Guide to Cinema. When I started my whiskey journey, I thought I wasn't even allowed, right? Or am I wrong? It wasn't even allowed. It wasn't even, what wasn't allowed? Wow, Greg, I'm not sure. Question 5. It's always a picture question.
Okay, I know where we are.
Oh, confident right away. So I'm just going to ask you something straightforward here. Are we looking at A, an ard, B, a ben, or C, a loch?
I know.
Good.
100%
Cruising for 5 out of 5. This could be your pass mark, and then you can really relax, Andre.
Yeah, fine.
Terrific stuff.
Do we want to give a hint? We have been here before.
Yeah, that's okay. And also be mindful about the 25th of January. We're still 3 minutes this side of midnight, so it's still the 25th. So I hope that helps everyone. Yeah, it's all pouring in now. I think we're in for some decent pass marks in the quiz at the end tonight. What are we looking at, Andre?
We are looking at the Loch Lee pot stills.
We are. We can see the necks of the spirit in the wash still, just ahead of, just behind, sorry, the 4 washbacks there. There are more washbacks out of sight, a cropped picture, but that's the spirit safe condensers and stills at Loch Lee. It is indeed a loch. Alrighty, question 6. Starting to get tricky now. The banana skins start here. The standard Glenfarclas 105 occasionally featured a 10-year age statement on its bottle. Often it was a non-age statement. Sometimes it would have a 10-year age statement on it. But what is the oldest Glenfarclas 105 to be released? And the crucial thing here is the 105 is imperial proof, Andre, which means 60% ABV. What's the oldest Glenfarclas 105 to be released? A, 16 years. B, 22 years. C, 40 years.
I'm sure for just 99%. 1% is missing to be absolutely sure, but yeah, I'm quite sure what it is.
Good, good. Donner Pask is saying very old Glenfarclas 105 was 8 years. Oh, back in the day, Tim, is that what you're talking about? I have a suspicion that the scores in the quiz at the end tonight, Andre, are going to be pretty good. Lots of people. Understand the banana skin, says Whiskey with Molly.
Yeah, I also understand it.
So, 99% sure, Andre, what is the oldest Glenfarclas 105 to be released so far?
40 years, I think.
40 years old.
Yeah.
60% ABV.
Yeah.
Incredible achievement. But I guess if you fill the casket still strength,
yeah,
it has the opportunity to go the length of time, and they managed to do it. They did release a 40-year-old Glenfarclas 105. Quite incredible. Here's a picture of it with a very low neck fill, ironically. Evaporation in the bottle. But that is a 60% ABV. A bottle currently available at Whisky Exchange for £4,500. I think.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes. But there you go. It's amazing that it exists, a 40-year-old bottle.
At that high strength, just think about how old this stuff could get and stay above 40% ABV.
Yeah.
That's just insane.
It's true. It's true. It matured in a very cold spot in the warehouse. Jimmy Legg is quite rightly pointing out it's a 65 CL bottle. And Brian Cabalis is making a pun saying, if I get 10 out of 10 tonight, it'll be poetic. A nod to Rabbie Burns. Terrific. Question 7. Which of these Diageo malts is said to retain a lighter style due to, amongst other things, warm water used in its worm tubs? So if you use warmer water, then It takes longer to condense. It's more copper contact. It helps achieve a lighter style. What am I talking about? Am I talking about A. Glenkinchie, B. Craigellachie, or C. Royal Loch Nagar? Which of these Diageo malts is said to retain a lighter style due to warm waters used in the worm tubs?
I'm not sure at all, to be honest. The lighter style is a bit. I had a distillery in mind, but
well, this distillery is not put under a lot of pressure, so they can do lots of interesting things like resting the stills to let the copper of the stills cool as well, which is a very rare thing. In fact, maybe even a unique thing. But certainly one of the things that worm tub operators tend to be really quite keen about is to keep the worm tub water very cold in order to have the vapor condensing as quickly as possible. Sometimes you'll even see steel substituted for copper and to reduce the copper contact. But this particular distillery is using warm water to increase copper contact in the worm. All over the place. I think this is splitting the crowd. This is where the banana skins start to tear things up for everyone. But we've got everyone over the pass mark, so we're in safe territory now. You need to give me your guess, Andre.
I would just say Glenkinchie, but I don't know at all.
The banana skin is there. Glenkinchie is often associated with being a lighter style, but the warm water in the worm tubs is actually employed at Royal Loch Nagar. Diageo's smallest distillery barely produces 500,000 litres per annum. It's one of the best 40% whiskies out there. I don't want to be promoting anything Diageo right now. I'm in a huge huff with them, honestly speaking, but I'll be honest that for a 40% whiskey, Royal Loch Nagar is pretty terrific. And we just don't see much of it at all. It's a very, very small distillery. For liquid like that to go off into blends seems, yeah, it is what it is. Lots of people celebrating a 7 out of 7. Graham Fraser, Brian Cabayas, Peter Box, fantastic. Rob Smith is complaining. Rats, he's saying. So sorry. Andre has also slipped. Take solace in the fact that Andre has slipped on that wee banana skin there as we go into question 8 and ask Finglassie, Strathhenry, and Kinglassie are what? What
I
are
know.
they?
I think I know.
Good, good. Given the business you're in, hopefully you've got a wee bit of insider information there. Finglassie, Strathhenry, and Kinglassie are what?
Dog breeds.
Dog breeds, yeah.
Someone said. Be like,
they are, Jimmy Legg, they are either A, lowland malt whiskies, B, Speyside hidden malts, or C, whiskey brands used in movies and TV. James Morgan is saying, I'll be happy with my Glengully. Finglassie, Strathhenry, and Kinglassie are either A, lowland malt whiskies, B, Speyside hidden malts, or C, whiskey brands used in movies and TVs. There is a banana skin here. Did the answer you were hoping for pop up, Andre?
Not exactly, but something similar.
Okay. Okay, let's go with it. Give us your guess.
I would
Andre.
say A.
Sorry?
I would say A.
A. Lowland malt whiskies. Finglassie, Strathhenry, and Kinglassie are all made at Inchdearney Distillery in Fife. So indeed, they are lowland malt whiskies. Yeah. Finglassie and Strathhenry, are all hopefully available from independent bottlers in the future. But I believe Kinglassie is going to be a release that will become an official distillery release.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I was waiting for the answer of Inchdearney, so that didn't show up, but so it must be A.
Perfect. No, they get a wee bit more obscure as the quiz goes on. Second from last. You've only slipped up once, Andre. Superb tonight. Superb. Which of these distilleries offers a tour where you can visit its adjacent drum maltings. Very rare thing, but you can actually take a tour where they will take you to visit the adjacent drum maltings. I've not done it. I may do it. Are we talking about A, Glengarry in the Eastern Highlands? Are we talking about B, Portellen and Islay? Or are we talking about C, Glenord in the Highlands? A, Glengarry, B, Portellen, C, Glenord.
I'm just at 50%.
Good. Listen, if I can bring someone on to the vPub and have you having to navigate your way carefully through by guessing and thinking, and then that's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
The quiz at the end should never be so easy, right? You need to work. A Grain of Malt is here. Good to see you. Sugar Kitty looking after me again. Philip Wagner is suggesting C. Glenn Duncan saying B. Black Fennis saying C. Alistair McPhail C. Andre, what do you think?
Glenord.
Glenord in the Highlands. Glengarry
Yes.
is reintroducing its own floor maltings. Portellen is right next to Portellen maltings, which is a drum maltings, but you can't tour it. Glenord, you can.
Exactly.
You can. It's not the biggest drum maltings, but it's pretty big, I'm sure. I'd love to go and see it. I'd love to go and picture what these things are. Maybe one day I'll do that. Something I discovered. Be good to do. Okay. I know that Andre, before we go into the asset at the end, is currently cooking an 8 out of 9, along with Philip Wagner, along with Big Ed. Good to see Big Ed. And Falsgraph is also the same, but Sugar Kitty's holding together his 9 out of 9. Here we go. He's saying Alan Smith also on an 8. Your Uncle Vanya, poor out of 10. She's saying so. Listen, don't worry about it. I'm just how many 9 out of 9s made it through? Or how many people made it to 9 out of 9? I thought it'd be more than that. I've only spotted 1 so far. Graham Fraser, of course. Brian Cabalius is on 9 as well. Superb. So we've got 2 or 3. Alistair McPhail also holding his fingers crossed as we go into the asset at the end. You know the asset is meant to be deliberately obtuse. No different tonight. Andre, good luck. How many Scotch malt distilleries feature Duff in their name? Is it the same number as A, those beginning with Ard, B, those beginning with Ben, or C, those beginning with Bo? How many Scotch malt distilleries feature Duff in their name? Is it either the same number as those beginning with Ard, A-R-D, those beginning with Ben, B-E-N, or those beginning with Bo, B-O? Graham Brown is here joining late Aquavitae, but it looks like a great quiz and topic. It's been no bad, Graham. See what you think. I hope you can pick it up on the replay, my friend. Always good to welcome you in here.
For me, this is a hard question, I have to be honest, but it's always the thing. I think in the last vPub there was a similar question. How many distilleries are there starting with T? And there were just so many new distilleries. So you never know.
To remember, it's not just the incumbents, right? There's lots of new distilleries out there. Spot on. Yeah. Thomas F is on a 9 out of 9. Good luck, Thomas. Okay. Alistair McPhail is suggesting that next week it'll be how many distilleries feature Roy in their name. Now, there are a few. Royal Brackla, Royal Loch Nagar is already featured. There's a couple, right? Okay. What are we going to have from Andre? Looking for his 9 out of 10 tonight.
Absolutely no idea. I would just go with A. I don't know.
Who's beginning with Ard? How many Duff distilleries can you think?
Milton Duff.
Yep.
Dufftown.
Yep.
Macduff.
Yep.
Is Craig Duff counting?
No, Craig Duff.
Not really a distillery.
No, there's a product made at either Strathyla or Glenkeith, right? Depending on, I know that there's Andrew Symington has got a very, very strong opinion about where Craig Duff was made. But yeah, no. And it doesn't include things like Cardew or Knockandoo or Knockandoo, Knockdo, anything with the duff at the end where it's do, it's pronounced do. Duff is Gaelic for Scots Gaelic for black. No, it means the words, the letters duff, D-U-F-F. And you've made them all. It is actually 3, Andrew. You've got them all. And it is all of those beginning with Bo, which is Bonington, Bowmore, and Borders.
I was with Bo at first because I thought there must be more with art, but Bo, it just came Bomo to my mind, and I think it can't be that. And yeah, but fine, 8 out of 10.
Fantastic. Take it.
Perfect.
8 out of 10. So anybody that has scored an 8 out of 10 or higher tonight has not only that's you beat our very, very knowledgeable guest, or matched, sorry, our very, very knowledgeable guest. Graham Fraser is celebrating his 10 out of 10. Superb, Graham. And it's a legitimate 10 out of 10 because the picture question used tonight wasn't, thank you very much for sending more pictures, Graham, but tonight's was one of my own. It wasn't a Graham Fraser picture, so it's legitimate. Fantastic. Lassie Hart's Oatsman is in. Sorry, Lassie, it just jumped there as I was speaking to you. Brian Cabayas is also, my goodness, Brian, superb, celebrating a 10 out of 10 as well. Let me see if I can find anyone else with a 10. Who else was it? Was Thomas F, Per Christensen on a 9, Derek K on a 9. Terrific, guys. Graham Malt on 8. Dora Pask on a 9. Fastcraft is saying 9 out of 10. Wow, thanks, Greg. I think we might just have 2 out of 10. Alistair McPhail, no. He's running around the room, also scored a 10 out of 10. Alistair McPhail, famously the guy who managed to score an 11 out of 11 on a vPub. Terrific. Congratulations, an 80% pass as well. Andre, I think your voice is valuable. I think it's wonderful. It's great to add it to the voice of all those enthusiasts out there that perhaps don't have the voice. They don't have a platform. They don't have a space in the industry. They don't have a YouTube channel, whatever it is. So for you to step up and say these things should not be seen as a negative. It should be seen as reality and sharing reality. Caveated with the fact that it's Andre's perspective, where Andre is as an enthusiast or working where he is in whiskey. And we all get together and add our own perspectives and layer on top of that and hopefully come away with some form of enhanced reality or what it may actually be out there. It's important. It's important for business. It's important for enjoyment. It's important for the long-term health of the scene. I really believe that.
I'm with you 100%. And sometimes I just don't know. Sometimes I have my industry glasses on. Sometimes I have my enthusiast glasses on. And also in my videos, I switched from one to the next sentence. I changed my perspective. And the viewers, they don't know. They were like, what is he talking about now? So I was arguing also about terms of prices and too many whiskeys and blah, blah, blah. And there was one guy, well, that means the whiskey will get cheaper. That's a good thing. I didn't get your point. Yes, it was just me switching perspective all the time.
I think that some whiskies will become cheaper, but the whiskies that need to become cheaper will not be the ones. The cheap whiskies will become cheaper. The big scale, large volume whiskies will have the potential to become cheaper. I worry that the whiskies that need to be cheaper, that should be cheaper, will not be. I think this, when I publish this, the comments in this will be fascinating. One of the takeaways from this is the frustration that people feel at whiskies that we know how much it should be, because there are lots of peers and comparators that out there that tell us how much it should be, that is artificially heightened. Anything with a significant age statement, anything from a reputable distillery, it seems to be artificially amplified in price. And I think that would be unfortunate for the long-term health of Scotch whisky. I just do. That said, if all of those whiskies are going to go out of reach, and we have to go to the more accessible, available, newer distilleries, certainly from the ones who are bringing integrity and balance and fair pricing and all of these things, I think we're going to be fine. Our future is taken care of. It's not going to be the same as it was. It's going to change. But we are adaptable, we are promiscuous, we are fickle, and we know that loyalty will cost us. So we're ready to switch and follow where the quality and value is. Just as a dram and a sticker of thank you comes in from Per Christensen in Denmark. Thank you, Per. It's wonderful to welcome you back in at the vPub at the end. Let me raise this glass to Andrea Habrecht. Habrecht, is that your... It's enough?
Yes. Yeah.
Habrecht.
Habrecht, yeah. When
Whisky
the postman
Tales
comes, when the Royal Mail comes, they're always asking for my name too, and then I say, okay, Andre is fine.
For those of you who either want to watch his content through subtitles or who can speak or understand German, I've just dropped the link in once more. Andre, I hope we'll have the opportunity to raise a glass together more in the future. And I look forward to seeing how things play out for you, for all of us, and hopefully have an opportunity to discuss it at some point. Maybe this year would be nice. Maybe I need to come up to Pitlochry, but if you find yourself in Glasgow, you'd be very welcome here, my friend.
We will be in touch at some point, I'm pretty sure.
I hope so. Andre, thank you so much for joining the vPub tonight. Cheers.
Thanks.
Hang around after the credits if you can, buddy. Cheers.
Cheers.
Andre from Whisky Tales. Fantastic. Like I say, his German is, his channel is German first. So you have to be able to understand German or do what I do, watch his content with the Google closed caption translation, which works pretty well. A bit clumsy and clunky, but you get the spirit of what he's saying. What's interesting is watching him express, and you rely so much more on the body language and the emotion in his voice and things like that. And then as the words pop up to translate, you're like, yeah, I felt that. I felt it. Another great night, says Jimmy Legg. Super fun in the chat too. Thanks to Andre. Thanks, Roy. Roy Black. Yes, Jimmy, you're absolutely spot on. Great stuff. Jimmy, thank you so much for tonight, for your humour, and for your generous dram too. My pal Peter Lee has dropped in and said 2024 will see me buying less quantity and focus on quality, like Springbank, Aramark and Signature products, or wherever I hope, Peter, that quality could come from. It's going to surprise us in the future, right? More meetups and more Whiskey Mondays. I like the sentiment there. Peter Lee, Jimmy Legg, thank you both. You're gentlemen. Thank you for your dram. Graham Fraser is celebrating being a member of the Barflies for 45 months and saying thanks as always, Roy. Thank you for everything that you do for our community, Graham Fraser. Chris Pollack is here. Good to see you, Chris. Thanks to you and Andrew for a very interesting vPub. Thank you, Chris. Good to see you. And John Morris is saying need an Aqua Vitae ass hat t-shirt on pricing. Yeah, like a pound. 57 Springbank 10 that goes to $100. Yeah, 57 pound Springbank. Yeah, that goes to $100 US. You're obviously in the States, John, and you're suffering from the amped prices over there. We understand. Listen, if I had no Springbank 10 on the shelf and I needed a bottle, $100, 80 quid. No, you're right. It's just a bit too expensive, but still a good bottle of whiskey. And I think that's why I think it's Habrecht means he's right. And he is, says Falsgraf. That's right. Good to see you in, Klaus. Rob Smith is saying, great vPub tonight. Andre was a great guest. Off to a tasting. My goodness, Rob, I hope you enjoy it over there in the States. Just your day, your evening is just starting out fantastic. For me, it's come to an end. Looking forward to hanging out with you next week. The topic next week has been upended a little bit. I'm not sure what it is, but that's okay. That's happened in the past on the vPub. There's always so much to talk about in whiskey, and I don't stress when topics are bumped for whatever reason. There's always things I can pull forward, and there's always brand new topics that we can speak about based on mood and moment. Tonight was an important one. Tonight was one for us to betray the thoughts of so many of you in the community. The poll was the right thing to do in the end. I think I will find a way to make these comments and this feedback available to anybody who cares. And I think that we could argue that we need to do things like this maybe once or twice a year in the future as well for all sorts of topics. Because me speaking is one thing, but when we're able to harness the feeling, the opinion, and the vibe and the feedback from all of you, I think it's all the more valuable and important. I've got a wee drip left of my elements of Isla here. I'm going to raise this glass and remind you all, as I look forward to next week, welcome you all over again, that you're all very dearly loved. And until then, Slàinte mhath.